Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Wish they were our wars every day. Welcome to Mike and Will. Sorry. Will and Mike Explain the Universe.
Mike and Will, like we've said before, it can go both ways.
Or, you know, the movie verse. If we were explaining the universe, we'd be more like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
I wish I was Neil deGrasse Tyson.
In this particular episode, though, we will be explaining a universe that is far, far away. And a long time ago at that. But, yeah, we thought we'd bring you a little treat where we already did technically what is the first Star Wars movie, which came out in 1977, but was Episode 4. So this time we're going to bring you what is officially, canonically, chronologically, the first Star Wars movie, which is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Or as most people like to call it, a steamy pile of crap.
Pure steamy pile of crap. No,
they said Hayden Christensen ruined it. I don't know about that.
Do you guys... I know, right? I think it was already pretty well ruined before Hayden Christensen
popped
up.
It was Jar Jar.
But it's true. We all had all this hope for this movie, and we just wanted to reclaim that classic feeling. And I'm not going to lie to you. I still saw this movie 10 times in the theater, but that was also because I just graduated high school and had nothing better to do. But... yeah, should we just dive right in and start talking about some of our problems and issues with this movie?
Let's just dive in like a Gungan.
This time.
So we're gonna unpause the movie. We've already did the Lucasfilm logo, so we're just about to unpause it on A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. If you'll join us, and you got the pause button there. Cool. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Unpause. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Bam!
And yeah, this particular movie was so it started off strong. It started with A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. It started with the big Star Wars logo blaring on screen and backing up into a corner somewhere else also far, far away. And then Episode 1 comes up, The Phantom Menace, and I remember I was 17 at the time, like I say, just about to graduate high school, and the audience went crazy. And then the movie started.
And I'm like, what the hell is it?
Even this first paragraph that's like, turmoil has engulfed Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes into what? I'm already bored. No.
Taxation, federalization, small planets, nah.
Honestly, I was probably too excited still just to see. I mean, the trailer came out, and I remember it premiered on like Entertainment Tonight or something, and it was a big deal. We all saw Darth Maul with his double-bladed lightsaber. We're like, man, who's that? And we saw Jar Jar moving around, being like, oh my gosh, look at that cool Jurassic Parky special effect creature, And what's her face? Up and comer Natalie Portman was going to be in it. We're like, oh, okay, there's our new cute Princess Leia type person, and it had Obi-Wan Kenobi as a young guy, and
it was
cool.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah,
we
get to see Train Spotting guy, not on drugs, and I mean, there was so much promising in this movie. I wanted to see it, and it just somehow, with all the ingredients and all the great stuff that it had going for it, it did not come together well.
Such a cool ship, though.
There's a lot of cool shots in this movie. There's a lot of cool moments. But and honestly, I think the reason I went to see this all the time is I had one of my dear friends. He was dying of cancer, honestly, and so I kind of just spent the summer with him, knowing that we probably didn't have too much time, honestly, together. And he just wanted to go see this movie all the time because he loved the Jedi. Like, he liked seeing full-fledged Jedi between, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, and just how, like, peaceful and samurai and honor they were, and how, they remained calm even in the face of danger, and, how they just, took the bull by the horns in different situations, and were so calm and collected and knew what to do, and they fight super cool. Let's face it, if anything, this movie has great fights and action sequences in a lot of places.
And, it's kind of, your story actually sounds a lot like the movie Fanboys. How their friend is dying from cancer, and all that they want is to get an early release of the movie, so that he can see it before he passes away. And they actually sneak on a Lucas Ranch, and they try and steal it, and they get busted. And the guy that has cancer is the only one that's allowed to watch it.
Huh.
They're like, "You're the exception. Come on in, watch the movie."
What did he say at the end after he's seen it?
It wasn't bad.
Okay. It's not the worst movie ever. It's just somehow it doesn't give us what we wanted, but still, like, you know, I mean, Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor were cool together. That the acting in this movie between the people that can act is actually pretty good. You know, Natalie Portman does a cool job as this kind of very mysterious, monotone talking queen who's, you know, I thought she was actually regal and cool. And, you know, I kind of used that as my model of the Daughter of the Nine Moons when I was reading the Wheel of Time series. But I don't know. I honestly, I think that these Nemoidian aliens, the Trade Federation guys, they get a bad rap for, like, making fun of, you know, Asians or in general, or the Chinese or whatever. Like, I didn't get that. I actually thought it was kind of cool that they sort of talk with, you know, these unrecognizable accents. And I think people are pushing it a little bit, saying that they're trying to be racist or
it's
something.
kind of like just like an English translation of something. Like, they could be speaking a total different language, but the way that the dialect that they're speaking in kind of translates to kind of sounding like that, but it's not meant to.
Yeah, well, we know in Star Wars that they don't really have universal translators. They just have kind of a common tongue, right? What do they call that, Sean? And
Common.
Okay, common. Thank you, Sean. But
sorry, it's
basic.
Yeah, basic. Common is D&D, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah,
whatever.
But still, I mean, like, I thought it was cool. They sort of had these alien-y accents. And I like the fact that Chewbacca never speaks English. And I just figure it was kind of a play off that. And honestly, Darth Sidious right here, seeing the Emperor right here, I think even the first time I saw this kind of did give me the chills and stuff. And it's really cool. And Ian McDiarmid is really, you know, he plays this part well. He hams it up just enough.
Yeah.
And brings, you know, a little bit of weight to it.
Well, there's still
considering
hope.
the lines.
Jar Jar hasn't shown up yet.
That's true. I really think Jar Jar is kind of a breaking point for a lot of us in our, you know, suspension of disbelief with this movie or some of the things about it. And see, that's cool. I mean, a lot of people give these movies kind of crap for doing so much CGI, but really there was shots like that were totally models, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of the sets are actually miniatures still. Like, I mean, even seeing the old holograms like this with the kind of crackly noise quality of them, that felt very Star Wars. And these guys, I mean, they were no stormtroopers, the battle droids, and they look like Callista Flockhart a little bit, but I mean, they were still really cool. You know? Like,
they do look like Callista.
And I like the fact that they are kind of a, you know, made to order army that comes out like a rack of folding chairs later.
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, you can't have Jedi just slicing guys in half, even though I guess Yoda and them kind of get away with it in Episode 3. But, like, I mean, you know, it was cool seeing lightsabers do their job and just chop the crap out of everything, like you know, Ginsu knives or whatever.
And I mean, even in the third one, it shows Anakin Skywalker like totally thrusting his blade through a young Padawan. So
technically, they never did see that. And actually, remember when I brought up that re-editing of the first Star Wars movie called The Mentor? In that, I watched that again recently, just checking it out, and in it totally skips out the fact that Anakin murdered younglings. And see, there's you know, everyone's at this point has kind of realized that George Lucas may have had just too many yes men. It wasn't as much of a collaborative effort, maybe, as him really trying to put his own stamp on the vision when he should have been listening to other people and taking their creative input and not having everyone just give him everything he wanted and asked for. So, and there's, you know, different things about that. I like George Lucas and appreciate, you know, what he's tried to do and everything. I think somehow he got off the rails just playing with his new toys and his new technology instead of trying to deliver a, you know, quality film with an emotional arc and everything. You know, it was a little more force fed. But I mean, in these movies, they're better than people give them credit for, but they still have a lot of problems. And I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that maybe I would have done differently. Am I being too nerdy by saying this is how it should have been good? You know?
You know what? Everybody hates me when I say this, but when I first watched this, Jar Jar Binks was my favorite character. I effing love
you
Jar
were the
Jar.
right age for Jar Jar.
I was.
You were, what, 10 years old when this came out?
About.
And I've heard that even at the time, they were saying, you know, yeah, they get a lot of crap for Jar Jar here in America, but in Japan, people were going crazy for Jar Jar. They actually liked him and thought he was kind of fun and cool. And I mean, these are just things I heard. I don't know how much truth there is to it exactly, but even some of these lines are very Star Warsy. I mean, Obi-Wan Obi-Wan Kenobi is actually in character for what he was from the you know, Episode 4. And I understand that Ewan McGregor had them make a tape of every scene that had Alec Guinness in it from the original Star Wars, and he would watch that all the time before he'd go to work that day and just try to get that feling and mimic it.
That's good. Here's our first appearance of Queen Amidala.
Yeah, and I think she was cool with the Queen. I think I've always said, honestly, that so she was a queen, right? And I think a lot of us at the time thought, oh, if she's a queen, that means that's maybe part of how Leia is a princess. Let's see how that goes in. Maybe there was some kind of arranged marriage with Bail Organa or something. Like, there was so much that we'd already kind of created in our minds, which didn't play out in this movie the way that we wanted to. And really, were loose threads from the original trilogy and things that were hinted at in the original trilogy that they never grabbed onto with this particular trilogy. I always wanted there to be a thing where, how Obi-Wan Kenobi says that line in the first Star Wars movie about, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. I'd kind of wanted that there would be little hints of like how he'd always be like, oh, that's lucky, oh, so lucky, and then he would have been putting his trust in his own luck, and it would totally backfire on him, and he'd realize, yeah, there's no such thing as luck. Right? There were stories we created in our heads, and somehow, these didn't live up to those stories that we had in our heads, and that's part of the problem for us as an audience.
Yeah.
And, kind of us being irresponsible, as an audience, but, I mean, you can't blame us. So I'm kind of afraid that this podcast might turn into a lot of what I saw it should have been.
That's okay. That's why we have a podcast, right?
Well, so I always thought that the whole thing with Queen Amidala, it's fine that she's a senator. She didn't even have to be a senator necessarily. They didn't even really have to go into the whole thing with the Senate. She could have been a queen and a dignitary who had dealings with the Senate, and you could just start off the story between her and Anakin like it is in Episode 2, where maybe that's the first time they met. And Anakin is already disillusioned by politics and just thinks the Jedi Order has it better because, they have their Council of 12 Jedi, with a main guy in charge who has the final say. Like, I think Mace Windu was technically that, and Yoda was kind of his right-hand man or, second counselor or whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, she could be the queen of her planet, working with the Senate, and then having the whole thing where she's trying to be assassinated, like at the beginning of Episode 2. And Anakin is a jaded, cynical Jedi, not even so much with his own order, but also, just with the politics in general. And, of course, you could still have that lead into Darth Vader like it does, and his desire that, maybe there should be a dictatorship, quote-unquote. So, I don't know, this whole... There's so much time wasted in this movie. I guess it's still a fun ride, but even this whole beginning scene where I don't quite understand why the Jedi... It's cool that they had to find transports down, that they got, sabotaged and ganked on the ship, when they went in for negotiations, and now they're kind of trying to make their way down here and warn the Queen. But did they have to go to Otogunga, in the middle of the water, and then do that whole bit where they have two different scenarios where they have a fish attacking them and a bigger fish eats it?
Yeah.
And, it just feels like there's a lot of wasted time here. There's a problem with pacing. And okay, now, what was it about Jar Jar that you liked when you first saw him as a kid?
He's goofy. He's basically Goofy, but a reptile.
Right. Okay, so... Yeah, so you mean Goofy?
I like the ways he talks.
You mean Goofy from the Disney shows, right?
Exactly.
Gosh. So he's Goofy. Now that's cool. Now Goofy, it kind of works for that, and that's his shtick. But the thing is, Goofy never admits to being a klutz or goofy, and I think that I honestly have always said that that's what would have made Jar Jar work better if he never admitted that he's clumsy. Because the first thing he does when he shows up is say,
clumsy.
"Yeah, me's a clumsy. Oh, look at me, I'm such a goof off, and I got kicked out because I'm so clumsy." Now, if he'd approached them and said, "I'm one of the coolest warriors they have, and I'm bomb bad awesome," and he came out saying this, but he was a klutz. That would have made him more endearing, because we would have been rooting for him, because we all think of ourselves as probably being a little cooler than we really are. It would have made him relatable. Instead, we're just kind of sick of him in the first 5 minutes. At least anybody who, was
above the age of
more
10.
of a grown adult.
It's like he's a lesser life form. Just kill him. Lightsaber straight through.
It would have been a very different movie and put a whole spin on Qui-Gon's questionable character.
We'll just leave him for the Predator.
Yeah, exactly. They just have 3 dots show up on him and he gets his head blown off.
Yeah.
The Predator shows up and claims his skull.
I think the worst graphic in this whole freaking movie is his Padawan tail. Not the one behind his ear. Not his like
his little ponytail on the back of his head.
Little tiny ponytail.
Yeah, they have a lot of hair problems in these movies, but especially that whole kind of Padawan buzzed look. But I guess it's just a little military-esque, huh?
Yeah.
Right, Josh, with the having to get your head kind of shaved and keep your hair cut high and tight. And
Well, it's also an Asian thing.
Funny story about the Padawan tail is when I was going through basic training, I met a guy who had a Padawan tail. He had short hair, but he had a Padawan tail. I'd say easily a foot in length. This guy had to have been growing it for a long time. And before we got to basic training, he's all like, "No, I'm not getting made fun of for this," and he cuts it off.
It's probably a smart idea.
I had one. It was about 7-8 inches, and it was wrapped in hemp as well, and had like beads in it and everything. So it was a legit Padawan tail. And when my cat died, I decided to bury it with my cat.
Oh, that's cool. I remember that. I was there. We had our own cool little funeral and buried him in a nice spot in the mountains.
What was your cat's name? What is it?
Smog.
Smog. Guess what his new cat's name is?
Smog?
Sauron.
Oh. It's Soren.
All right, Soren.
He's
but still.
named after the Guardians of Ga'Hool's main character, Soren.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, now...
But not Thorin?
Here,
No.
this here, again, just goes to prove my theory about Jar Jar, that if he just kind of thought of himself as cool, but even though he screwed up sometimes, it would have made him an endearing character. Because it's not that Gun-Guns are inherently crappy, because honestly, these other Gun-Guns, like Captain Tarsal here, Captain Tarsal's actually kind of cool, and he talks kind of fun, and he's a fun character to Jar Jar, especially, seeing him at the end, where he's trying to help Jar Jar out, and Jar Jar's being goofy. Like that actually kind of works in that dynamic. But it's not that all Gun-Guns suck, it's just Jar Jar.
Yeah, it really is.
And Captain
just Jar
Tarsal,
Jar.
if Jar Jar had been a little more like Captain Tarsal, he actually probably would have been a lot cooler and accepted more as like the Chewbacca of this movie.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of the strange alien who,
Is the
has some
sidekick
kind of
that
mysterious...
helps
Yeah, But, and then even here with Brian Blessed playing Boss Nass and doing the whole thing, like, it looks really cool. He's a fun character. The fact that the Jedis use mind tricks on him, and actually that's one funny thing about Qui-Gon's character in that is he literally tries doing mind tricks all the time on people. He's like the most
your Jedi mind tricks.
he's the most irresponsible Jedi. Yeah. The fact that he kind of uses his powers not so much for personal gain, but to manipulate situations to be how he wants them to be. But yeah, I mean, he does it here on the leader of a whole race. It's like
in front of everyone too.
Yeah.
It's like. So this is what happened to the Ninja Turtles' grandfather.
He kind of looks like a Ninja Turtle, having just done that podcast. Yeah, I mean, Boss Nass, he's fun to look at. He's fun to listen to. It's not that the Gun-Guns themselves are the crappiest characters. It's just it's Jar Jar. He comes out of the bat saying, comes right into the movie saying, "I suck." And we kind of believe him, for the rest of the series. And it's unfortunate, because it's a bit of a missed opportunity for what could have been a cool breakout character. Instead, Gollum, who was probably the next example of a full-on CG character that's done by an actor. Because Amd Best did a good job as Jar Jar, but he played him exactly how he was supposed to, and it's just a crappy character to play. But Amd Best is awesome, and he's funny as hell. But, instead we end up getting Gollum showing us how it's done right and showing us a very sympathetic, real character made out of pure CG.
Yeah.
So again, just a missed opportunity there, but I can see what they were going for, and I appreciate for any of the technology that came out of trying to make Jar Jar like he was, but it just kind of didn't ferment well.
Do you think they could have just killed all the Gungans if they just dropped a couple toasters into the water and just electrocuted them all?
I know. Well, if they're inside their bubble cities there, which again is another cool concept, because Gun-Guns have super advanced force fields and very organic technology, which makes them very cool. No, just one step above Ewoks. And I guess again, I think that's part of why the Gun-Guns get a lot of hate, is because it's mostly the vocal minority, or maybe even majority, on the internet. Because I guess people who were older when they first saw the Ewoks hated the Ewoks, but I was 5 years old when I saw the Ewoks, and I thought they were the funniest, cutest, coolest thing ever. I love the fact that teddy bears took out the Empire, but anybody who was older thought it was crap. Now, see, again, here's a cool-looking spaceship, and it's got that great organic design, and even the propeller on the back.
Behind.
Yeah, that's super cool. But again, it's kind of a missed opportunity. And I swear, there's a moment here coming up where Obi-Wan Kenobi does the Vulcan neck pinch on Jar Jar to knock him out. And all of us wish that he would have stayed knocked out the rest of the movie. Or maybe they could have had Obi-Wan just doing that to him all the time.
What can I do with one hand? What back?
But
I can do that with one hand.
Like on the bridge DBZ. But see, again, okay, so this scene in and of itself could have been really cool, but again, they do the exact same scene again in 3 minutes, because it's just a big fish trying to eat them, and then a bigger fish comes and eat that fish, and they get away.
Yeah.
So it's what's the point? I don't know. Why waste minutes on that when the point of this is just to get him to the princess and rescue her. So I don't know. I think a lot of it was they were just trying to show off special effects at the time and playing too much with their fun toys instead of getting to the point.
Does Obi-Wan actually not mind being in control of the spaceship in this one because they're not technically flying? You know how he has that hate of flying.
That's
and
true,
everything
huh?
like that. He's like, I'm actually underwater.
I think he enjoys driving. I just think he hates flying in space, especially deep space. Because I mean, who wouldn't? He's if he's going to be dumb enough not to wear a suit where he can survive, if he has to eject. I mean, I'd be kind of afraid of space too. I guess he's a little bit like Dr. McCoy that way, because remember how he's talking about how your blood boils and space is a vacuum and it's completely harsh and unforgiving. You know, Obi-Wan is kind of got the same attitude as Bones in that way. But, you know, they talk about the deal here that they have. They never quite say what this deal is or how Sidious is manipulating these Trade Federation guys. But one thing I do like about the prequels, even though it's not maybe executed well, is it does show how manipulative, how conniving, and how this is such a long game for Palpatine, for Darth Sidious, in creating this empire and seizing all power. And I guess, I don't know, Sean, maybe you can help me out on this, but he's kind of doing what all Sith have always been wanting to do. They think they can rule the galaxy better than anyone, kind of like Doctor Doom. But they just go about it very evilly, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
for
that
the
their
most
end game?
part, I mean, depending upon what century you are in Star Wars, they switch their goals a lot, but they're definitely in the we need to stay in the shadows part right now.
Right, because they have to hide so they can strike and gain that power, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's always been kind of their end game, is they think, they have the Force, they're stronger and better than everyone. It's I always saw it as a very Magneto kind of way of, hey, we should take over and rule all these other creatures and beings because we're powerful, we have the Force as our ally, and we know what's best for everybody.
Right.
It's not necessarily that they're just super evil, it's just that they're completely misguided in their use of their power.
Oh, exactly.
So, but again, I mean, here we're kind of watching the exact same scene we just watched a minute ago. They're just kind of showing off a bunch of big creatures, and I guess it's cool, but again, it just it's completely out of context
Unagi.
with the yeah.
It just happened.
They're out of context with the point of the film, with the point of where they're trying to get to, and it takes away any sense of urgency of them trying to get to their destination. So.
And this is when they visited Utah before we settled.
It looks like the pioneers all going to settle the Salt Lake Valley.
Except for it would be more deserty.
Naboo is a cool looking place. I guess they filmed a lot of it in Italy or something.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but at real palaces and stuff. I mean, again, they actually used a lot of cool real sets and real miniatures. That town was a whole miniature I remember seeing on special effects. So it is a pretty good looking movie.
Yeah.
I think though it really is a lot cleaner than what we were used to Star Wars being, which I understand being the point because this is at the height of the Galactic Republic, right before their downfall. But it's still somehow it didn't feel as Star Warsy as maybe what we wanted. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I guess maybe it was because it was the 90s. You really can kind of see a lot of the blue screen, especially on these HD versions, these HD TVs.
Nice parking, Obi-Wan.
What's that? I don't know. There's just no. There's
time
something...
enough for a costume change. Who are you, Lady Gaga?
Exactly. She had time to change her clothes. I heard Carrie Fisher say, I think maybe on the commentaries for this, where she's like, I had like one outfit, maybe two, the entire first movie, and the girl who plays my mom got to have like 17 or something. So,
and it's kind of hard to tell when she's like switching with her handmaiden.
I've always said that right now this is her duplicate.
Yeah.
And she's one of the handmaidens right now. But yeah, it was kind of a fun guessing game with my friend and I when we'd see this in the theater, trying to say, okay, when is it Padme and when is it her duplicate? Mm-hmm. Now, is her duplicate a Camino clone? Or is it just a girl who looks like her? Because most of them are just girls that look a lot like her. But I mean, clearly, because they were both played by Natalie Portman, for one thing. But clearly this person who's dressed up as the Queen now and Padme look exactly alike. And if they have cloning technology, even if it's maybe illegal, don't you think a higher up, a government official could maybe secure a nice meat shield duplicate?
It's like how the bad guys were nice enough to let her keep all of her handmaidens. Take her to prison.
Yeah.
All of her handmaidens.
Yeah, what's up with that? Like, there's just... it's not very well thought out, some of these situations. I mean, it really is all just about trying to drive the plot from point A to point B and not really caring how you get there.
Yeah.
You know, not really looking at the details.
It's like, how are you going to have a harem without all the women?
Maybe that's really what they were taking them to process them.
Suck my jag on.
Put them in their harem.
Well, also, again, you know, you have all the soldiers. I'm going to send you away with all your soldiers. But they're disarmed.
That's
so they're
true, yeah. Like, why are... Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I did think the spaceship was cool. I do like how Naboo technology is very sleek and very... it almost looks like what everyone thought the 21st century would look like back in the 50s.
Yeah. That's definitely not her.
And I'm down with
she
that.
is.
It looks very much like the old, Flash Gordon serials, which is what this is supposed to emulate in a lot of ways. Yeah,
So
that's
you can
totally
see Natalie Portman to the right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess I've been told by ladies that I know that, Amidala's outfits and stuff are all really cool in this. They sure are. They look good. They look like a lot more than Princess Leia just wearing her bed sheets like the whole first movie.
Come on, she had to be modest.
But I don't think they were fooling anybody thinking that we didn't know that was both Natalie Portman and that they were going to try to pull a twist on us that that's really the Queen. Like, I don't know. I think part of it that didn't help was I'd seen the new figures for this movie released at Toys R Us and stuff, like before it came out.
With the little...
So I kind of put two and two together and realized, hey, wait a minute.
I hate it when toys do that. Like, you look at a toy and like, well, way to ruin the movie toy.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm trying to avoid all the Avengers stuff coming out right now as we're getting close to Age of Ultron. Yep. Just because, like, I'm afraid that they're going to spoil things for the movie for me.
Yeah, because they just came out and said that there's going to be at least another 2 handfuls worth of superheroes that they haven't even shown.
Yeah, well, we already know that. I mean, obviously they got to have T'Challa in it. Vision is going to be there. Yes. We're seeing him on posters and in that last trailer. I can't wait to see how that is. And I've heard that his kind of quote unquote birth or whatever is like a really cool scene. And
excellent.
I don't know, in Whedon we trust.
Bring us justice, Whedon.
Right. Alien 4 was not your fault, Whedon. We understand this.
I liked Alien 4. It was horrible, but I liked it.
It's really good for the first 3 quarters. Falls apart in the last, but I heard that's because of, executive interference and stuff. So It's always the suits that ruin the end of a movie.
What I really like is the Alien toys in the 80s and 90s.
Mech droids.
First appearance of R2 right there. Yeah,
they sold it to kids, but yet...
they were like hardcore rated R movies. Lots of blood and everything. So I think it's funny that they have this blockade, and then later when they come back to Naboo, there's only one ship. I guess it's expensive to keep all these ships here for the Trade Federation. I mean, they're not the Empire, but they're really well armed. Kind of like the East India Trading Company in Pirates of the Caribbean or something. That's kind of the closest I figure the Trade Federation are.
Oh, and then you can just imagine what R2's saying to him. Like, you don't even belong here. You're a stupid Gungan that can't do crap. Get out of my way. I'm going to go fix something while you destroy something.
I feel bad for all these other R2 units.
Yeah.
They're just cannon fodder. Is it that R2's that skilled, or is he just lucky that he didn't get hit?
Well, R2 doesn't believe in luck either.
Yeah.
R2 is like the single most competent character in all of these movies.
He really is.
It's because he doesn't say anything.
And we actually do see R2 wield a lightsaber in Return of the Jedi for a moment. Even though he never turns it on, but he sure knows how to throw it at people. So I don't know. Maybe it's because we saw Episode 4 first that this Trade Federation ship, which is kind of our quasi-Death Star for this movie, didn't seem as threatening. The stakes didn't quite seem as high. I guess that's the nature of prequels. It's hard for them to top the last movies when you already know where it's ultimately going to lead.
Yeah, and like especially if you're planning on having 2 more, it's like getting to a interesting point in the amount of time that you have while getting a bunch of character build-ups and backstories and everything like that.
Well, I think that's one of the problems that naturally with this movie is that we all wanted Episode 3 out of this movie, and we never got there. And I remember actually very specifically, we got out of it for maybe the 3rd time we saw it or something, and I told my friend Sam, I say, this movie just feels like it's missing something, and I think it's 2 more movies.
Yeah.
But even they didn't quite fill in the cracks the way we wanted.
See, I think the biggest problem is they shouldn't have focused on Darth Vader as much. He should have been a side character.
Yeah.
Well,
like maybe a main side character, but a side character nonetheless. Give us a story we don't know the end result.
Yeah,
this
that's
guy's
true.
Be in the Darth Vader outfit.
Maybe that's one of the great mistakes of it is taking Darth Vader and saying that the whole series is about him, when really it's not. It's about, repression and a fall. It's supposed to be an allegory for, the underdog coming up and doing what's right and getting on top and throwing over the great menace to the universe, the world, the country, whatever. So, yeah, I think you're right. That was probably a mistake to revolve it so much around Darth Vader and some kind of fall from grace and, redemption. It's not a bad story. It's just not executed very well over 6 movies.
Exactly.
And especially in this movie, we didn't need to start with him as a little boy. We could have had some kind of flashbacks as a little boy or some kind of exposition to talk about as a little boy. But, I mean, to have the whole first movie revolve around him being a little boy and being, honestly, kind of annoying?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just... What I would have done, I'll tell you right now, here's my idea for how I would have done the prequels. And very basically in a nutshell, I would have completely erased episode 1 except in, again, some kind of exposition. You can still have Obi-Wan talking to Anakin as he's a teenager, like in episode 2, and saying Anakin, back when my old master and I found you on that planet, decided to train you, and if they'd done that and just kind of talked about that, maybe had a scene between Obi-Wan and Yoda where they talk about that. Yeah. And Obi-Wan's like, man, remember when you trained me and you warned me not to train that kid, but I still, I know that he can be good and strong. And just, again, everything in Qui-Gon could have just been Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. I know that the Red Letter Media guys are notorious for having said this before. But the thing is, you could have had the whole first movie be what episode 2 was, and have Anakin have to protect the senator that he doesn't like, especially because he doesn't like politics, and then they fall in love, kind of like how Han and Leia do, because they kind of don't like each other for the whole first movie, but they do ultimately become attracted to each other and fall in love in a, mostly a believable way, considering all the other things in the movie. Yeah. So, have
wizards
yeah, exactly, space wizards and light swords, and so have them get together like that. That's perfectly fine. Have it be completely against the Jedi Order and the Jedi way, and it makes Anakin that much more of a complicated and tragic character that he has that to fight against. Do I choose the Jedi or do I choose my heart and my love of my life? And I'm supposed to keep my feelings in check as a Jedi, but I can't help it because my love for this girl is so strong. And my master has warned me against this, that this will lead to trouble. But, you can go that whole path with that, right? Now you have the whole first movie be about that. And you have one villain. You don't have to have Darth Maul and then Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku or whatever. You don't have that. You just have one central villain and his master. You can still have the Emperor. You can still have Senator Palpatine and General Grievous. If anything, General Grievous should have been Darth Maul. I've always said that. I've always said, how much cooler would it have been, especially for Obi-Wan Kenobi to go up to him, and how much more of an allegory to Darth Vader would that have been if General Grievous actually had been Darth Maul, and when he talks to Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's like, you remember me, you cut me down, you did, and that, it would have made their battle so much more personal and so much less lame. But, so anyway, you can have that whole thing with Obi-Wan Kenobi, still training Anakin, still doing that, and basically have episode 2 be the episode 1. Now, episode 3, you could still take basically that same story, but split it in half, and you end the second movie, the first of that half movie, when Anakin falls from grace and becomes Darth Vader. He doesn't have to put on the mask yet. He's still a full flesh and blood human, but that is the movie where you murder Anakin Skywalker and he becomes Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Now, the third movie should all be about him wiping out the Jedi and doing all that. And at some point, you can even previously, establish that, because of a training sequence that Obi-Wan and Anakin have where he's like, hey, I have the high ground, and this is why it's important. You can still even have that. I don't care. But you have the whole third movie be about Darth Vader himself. Anakin is no longer Anakin. He's Darth Vader. And what you do is you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda still go to the Jedi Temple and be like, what happened here? How come everyone's dead? What's the story? And you could have them figure out the mystery of how this happened. And what they do is they find the video still, kind of like they do in episode 3. They find the hologram of Darth Sidious coming to Anakin and saying, well done, my young apprentice. Now, forsake the last of your Jedi ways. Now that you have carried out this final mission, forgo your old lightsaber and take this new red one.
See, that would have been cool, too, especially if they did it as a twist. Like, if he was still hanging out with him after that happened. Like, How long has he been a Sith for?
Well, what I kind of thought was the way they decide is that they even decide to look at the video things is Obi-Wan would find Anakin's unique lightsaber on the ground, be like, I know Anakin was here, I can't find his body. Yoda, let's check the video footage and see what happened. And they see that that's what happened and realize that it's Anakin, it's Darth Vader who killed all the Jedi at the temple and did that. So now Obi-Wan has Anakin's old blue lightsaber and he just sticks it in his back pocket, right? So now when he goes to fight him on Mustafar and they're fighting and Obi-Wan's trying to convince him they're still good in you, maybe he's pulling a Luke like Return of the Jedi, and Anakin's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You can still have that whole thing. But the way that you have Obi-Wan beat him, you can still have a high ground thing. I don't even care as long as it's something established as to why it's important. But what you have is when Anakin jumps over Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan dismembers him, it's because Obi-Wan reaches in his back pocket and pulls out a second lightsaber, which is Anakin's own old blue lightsaber, and Anakin doesn't see that coming, and that's what he uses to dismember him and to chop off his leg. So there you have the hubris of Anakin setting up his own downfall, and that it's his own forsaking his own Jedi ways is what leads to him becoming more machine than man and becoming like fully Darth Vader.
And then Obi-Wan in the next one hands him the lightsaber. I cut your father's legs off with this one.
What? That's fine. Yeah, I mean it actually adds a lot more weight to that lightsaber, and even maybe to the end of Empire Strikes Back when he chops off Luke's hand and Luke loses that lightsaber. And there's supposed to be some stuff coming out with Episode 7 about that lightsaber.
Oh, cool.
So, in The Force Awakens, I've heard rumors and stuff like that. But anyway, so, I mean, you could have this whole thread with the lightsaber as its own story arc and its own, character almost. But, they didn't. They did what they did, and I guess it's funny because I think I've convinced myself and thought that through so many times in my head that I remember the movies that way. So then when I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It actually kind of happens this way. Here's all this crap. Are you an angel?
Yeah. Well, again, that's the number one problem with these movies. Not the movies. We all have a better idea of what the movies should be.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel dumb about it. I feel like too nerdy about it.
Like at this part, after they took Anakin, why weren't they like, hey, we'll trade you this fucking Gungan, pardon the French, this freaking Gungan for Shmi.
You can have him for a slave. He already owes me a life debt anyway. I just do that. Have Greedo. What show is it where I saw that? Is it a How It Should Have Ended or something? Where Greedo realizes that he has the switch to the bombs. He's like, hey, what's this thing? And he presses it and he has no idea what it is. And it shows Darth Vader's head explode because he still has the slave bomb inside him. I saw it as a comic or something.
I don't remember.
But anyway,
that.
but here's
Do you mean Greedo or Watto?
Watto. I'm sorry, yeah, Watto. But so here's another problem is that we already have a connection to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and yet this whole thing on Tatooine revolves around Qui-Gon instead, who we have no connection to at all. So again, it's just another missed opportunity where wouldn't it have been maybe better for Qui-Gon to stay back on the ship and Obi-Wan to come find Anakin? Like, why did we really have to have Qui-Gon at all to begin with?
Yeah, he has like no story in this.
Yeah,
he dies.
Yeah, I mean he's a fun character. It's nice that Liam Neeson's come back to voice him in Clone Wars and other things like that. But I don't know. I got to tell you, I think Sebulba's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And when I first saw shots of him, I didn't expect him to have that deep Sebulba voice, But I think he's a fun character, and I like how he's little but he's bossy and he's kind of a jerk, and he might be actually one of the better new characters that this movie introduced.
Let's just give him a new voice. Oh, you think you're great pod racer, huh?
Podcaster, huh? No, that's even me. No,
right. Anyways, I'm gonna beat you tomorrow at the race. You won't stand a chance. I'm gonna kick you with my legs.
Very nice ADR work, Will. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe part of why I like him is because he beats the crap out of Jar Jar. He actually gets a few wallops in on him. But yeah, I don't know. Again, this movie, it's not horrible. It's not unentertaining, and it's got a lot of cool moments, and it's kind of got a fun thread. It's just not put together very well. I don't know how to. There's been so many things now that I've dissected this, though.
Yeah.
But I feel almost better about pointing out the things that I like about it and the things I think are cool, because there's already so much hate for this out there. But
use the Force, Obi-Wan.
This is also the other most sensible guy. Her bodyguard here.
Yeah.
What's his name? Captain Typho, or is that the second movie?
No. Let me check my Star Wars trading card.
Whatever his name is, he's a handsome man. Looks like Denzel for sure. But he's also like one of the most sensible people in the show. And if they'd listened to him more, it probably would have gone a lot better. I also don't like...
Panaka.
Yeah, Captain Panaka. That's right.
What's up with this old sage man?
Is it a man?
Kind of looks like it. It's hard to
not.
tell. I know, yeah, it's totally a woman.
Put the sound down so you can't hear her voice.
It's funny how you can't tell, though.
She probably talks like this anyways. I don't have any information for you. Just keep on walking.
You know what? These have got to be TARDIS technology, the slave quarters here, because it definitely looks bigger on the inside than it must be on the outside.
Right.
Especially
So
there's like a door right next to this one.
Yeah, for reals, right? I'm glad the Time Lords were nice enough to visit the Star Wars galaxy and provide them with some of their technology.
The most well-treated slaves in the entire galaxy.
Really? Like, seriously, like they have their... It's a pretty nice home, all things considered, you know?
Yeah, they're well-fed. They don't have to work on a moisture
Yeah,
farm.
And like, what does she do? Does she go home and like clean Watto's sheets and stuff while he's out away from his home and at the shop, and then come back here to make dinner for his son and raise him in peace and quiet? It's actually not that bad of a life, really.
Right.
Say, Luke had it worse.
Yeah, seriously, his uncle cracking the whip on that moisture farm. Jeez.
On the moisture farm.
I do like C-3PO here. And seeing like his kind of skeleton self, you know, it really sells him as a droid, and really mimics Anthony Daniels acting really well. I like how you can see his like positronic brain or whatever,
Yeah.
and it spinning around inside. I guess they achieved that by having a guy in a blue screen suit, you know, like behind him puppeteering him, and then they just erased it later. So all that walking around, there's actually a guy behind him moving it, and they just blue screen him out later.
I totally just saw Padme check out his butt.
Yeah, she does seem to be into skinny guys.
She's like, "What's up? You're quite wiry."
I think R2's checking him out as well. So begins a loving relationship. The cutest
like how they
couple
don't-
in all of Hollywood.
I don't like how they take him, but in the next episode he just kind of pops up.
Oh well, if Shmi Skywalker got married to Lars, whatever his name is, Uncle Owen's dad or whatever,
Yeah.
if that happened, which actually does make him Uncle Owen to Luke, which is kind of cool. I actually always like that. Then of course, you know, she would have brought the last thing that her son ever gave her, which was 3PO.
Yeah.
And you know,
and a Jawa head.
yeah, that's kind of weird.
Mom, look what I brought you today.
It was kind of cool to finally see Coruscant, because we got a hint of it in '97 with the Return of the Jedi Special Edition, but I think I always thought it was a really cool city. There's a thing Joss Whedon has said before on the Serenity soundtrack or commentary, where he talks about how he doesn't like futuristic cities, you know, being supposed to be utopias, and they're all just very tall. So he tried to make it look very form-fitting to nature and a lot more elegant. But still, I think Coruscant has a good blend of the two. It's not only a big, tall, futuristic Blade Runner city, but it's also it has a bit of an elegance to it. I always thought.
So
It's cool.
what's the actor's name that plays Darth Maul?
Ray Park.
Ray Park.
Is
and
it
then
true that they hired somebody else and they hired Ray Park to train that guy? And they're like, you know what, we're just going to hire Ray Park
I
for
think
Darth
so.
Maul.
I think I've heard that before. I do know that the guy that does Darth Maul's voice, that they dubbed Ray Park's voice over, is he's the one of the Nova Corps on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, really?
He's the one that Rocket Raccoon talks to, and when he dies, Rocket Raccoon's all sad. Yeah, he's like, "What a bunch
What
of
an ass."
a-holes."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that guy. He's Darth Maul. He does the voice of him
Interesting.
anyway.
I didn't even know Darth Maul talked in this.
Well, yeah, he has like 3 lines. He has that whole thing. If the trace was correct, it should not be difficult to find them, Master, or something.
Oh, yeah.
At last we shall have our revenge. You know, at last we shall reveal ourselves to the
He's a
Jedi.
complete asshole.
And then later he has one other line. Yes, my master.
He's a complete asshole. Do you believe that? Well, I don't believe
I
anybody's
don't believe anyone's a complete asshole. Yeah, wrong guy, but same. You know, he was his right hand man or whatever. You know, second in command in Nova Prime. Again, Glenn
Sorry, that
Close.
was my favorite line from Nova Prime.
I did. Did anybody ever notice when they were watching this when he says that he's a pod racer, and Qui-Gon says you must have Jedi reflexes to do that, and then does Jedi reflexes by catching Jar Jar's tongue,
Yeah.
so he totally outs himself as a Jedi. You know, besides the lightsaber hanging around his belt.
Right.
That was one problem I had with this was I know that these movies, it's all about the merchandising, But still, they didn't have to make the lightsabers look like toys.
Greg Proops did a voice in this.
Who's that?
He was on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
He's the voice of Fode. F-O-D-E.
Whoever that is. Maybe one of the pod racers.
Oh, we're gonna see your character from our game.
Oh, which one? Oh, yeah.
His character.
The... Oh, man. What
Thestra?
is it? Is it Xenix or...
Whatever your race is in this.
Yeah.
Oh, on our new game, yeah, with the 4 arms. He's one of the
Yeah.
pod racers. Yeah. Poor Shmi. Oh, I can't watch this movie without thinking about sand people raping her now. I mean, like, oh, what did they do to her? And she was really dead and dying. And, I mean, did they just torture her for fun and whip her or
there you
something?
go.
Like, it's got to be horrible.
Gungan Scout, Battle Droid Commander, and Darth Maul's voice.
Peter Serafinowicz. Yeah, well, he was also their other roommate on Shaun of the Dead.
Serafinowicz.
The one that lives upstairs and always yells at
Yeah.
them and tells them to grow up and stuff. Sort your effing life out, mate! That's Darth Maul.
Amanda Lucas. Do you think that's any relation to George Lucas?
I guarantee it. I actually had a part in episode 3, too.
Yeah.
Here's another problem with these scenes, and again, this is something that Red Letter Media pointed out to me, was how so many expositional scenes in this are very badly done exposition. It's people sitting around talking. They're always walking and talking or sitting and talking. And this, it's a scene where they're all sitting around the table just talking about what the scene is about, you know? And if there's one thing that the first Star Wars movie did so well, and I've seen directly attributed to the editors of that particular movie, it's that the pacing of it was always so action-packed. It was faster, more intense, which is what George Lucas is known to say. Yet this movie was slow and completely not intense.
Right.
Like, ever, you know? Like, maybe when the Jedi are fighting the Sith, but, I mean, even still.
It's like every 2 minutes you can put in the Jeopardy song. Boom, 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 boom.
Kind of, because you're kind of waiting for something to happen, you know? It just...
Hello, Alex.
But-
I'd like the tits now for 500.
I'll take the penis mite here for 500. I'll take the rapist. That's therapist.
And no bum covers.
Now-
It's not a thing.
Again, everyone. I don't know if I just. I don't know. I didn't get all the racism in this movie. They say how he's like, oh, this Arab guy, and he's being, you know, a stereotype of an Arab character. I didn't see that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just blind to that or
This
something.
is the first time I even noticed Watto has hair on his face.
Yeah, he's got a chinny chin chin. Hair on his
Yeah.
chinny chin chin.
Not little chin chin chin.
But they talk about there's a lot of thought put into certain guys like Watto about how, you know, it's not that his wings lift him up, but he's got that big belly, so he kind of produces helium in it, like the dragons on Flight of Dragons or something, and he sort of floats there, and then his wings just kind of help him move and navigate around. And I mean,
So
there's
he's just constantly farting?
kind of,
Helium?
kind of, which
No
kind of
wonder why
explains Anakin's
everybody's-
high voice.
Yeah, I was going to say, no wonder why their voices get so high when he's around.
That's cool to think about.
I thought they were just a little on edge.
Poor Jake Lloyd. He was so good with Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way, but
Yeah, I guess the way that he moves kind of does show that a little bit.
yeah, he's a cool looking guy. He's very interesting looking, kind of like Dax or whatever his name is, Dex on Episode 2 that owns the cafe that Obi-Wan goes to. It's kind of a dumb scene, but he's a fun character to watch.
Yeah, he's all fat.
These movies, if they do anything right, they have plenty to look at, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Even while they're here in Mos Espa and walking around on the exterior shots, and even this interior set in Watto's shop, there's a lot to look at. Look at the gonks in the background. Look
He
at the
looks
other
like
droids
Pizza
back there. And again, I think the spaceship is cool. I guess it's kind of good camouflage because it would just reflect anything that they're... On the other hand, if you're looking at it from above, like the Sith probably were, it would just reflect the sky, and you can probably point it out.
Yeah. It's like,
right
why
away
is
on
the
the ground.
sky just in the middle of the desert?
Oh, here's something to point out. I remember even thinking this, and it was confirmed when I read some magazine at the time or something, but their communicators that they're talking into right there are totally Gillette's razors for women. It's like their Venus razor or something. But...
I'm your Venus.
'Cause I remember
fire,
looking at my
your
sister's razor in the
transponder.
shower and just realizing, hey, that's a Jedi communicator.
And then he had all sorts of fun. And my metachlorian counter.
At least he just walks in
Even
on
Master
you in the
Yoda
bathroom,
doesn't have a
speaking to
midichlorian count like me.
At least he just walks in, you're just like talking into a razor, and you've got like
What the smeg are you
your
doing?
back scrubber as your lightsaber. I'm holding him off.
Well, my brother
Where's my
Matt
back?
Armstrong at MatthewArt.com, he actually he drew that whole. Did you see that on Facebook where he posted the whole thing where he's pretending that he's the X-wing fighter at the end of Episode 4, and he's going through the Death Star trench, and instead of the Millennium Falcon coming to save him and blowing up Darth Vader, and Darth Vader's like, "What?" It's actually Voltron.
Oh yeah.
Hey, thanks, Voltron. He's like, "Ain't nothing but a thing. Ain't no thing." And then he blows it up, and it shows his wife and kid outside the bathroom going, like, they hear boom, and they're like, "What's going on in here?" And he's just inside a big bubbly shower going like, "Zoom, rah, pew." It's really funny. Anyway, yeah, I've never done that in the shower.
Yeah, I've never done that either.
Pretended that I was Luke in Star Wars. Is that actually Greedo? I know it's Warwick Davis playing the little Greedo-looking guy here. Man, this movie's so wizard. It's too bad that never caught on.
I tried to use that a lot just to make fun of it.
That's totally wizard, guys.
These poor slave children.
What the heck are you talking about?
At least they're not out in the desert being raped and killed by sand people.
That's true, yeah. Stupid ginger kid ruins it for everybody.
There are gingers in the future.
Doesn't she look like
Jar Jar.
so for a while there was a fan theory before 2 and 3 came out that two of those kids there were Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and that Anakin actually somehow Uncle Owen would have actually been like one of his friends growing up. And that Obi-Wan would have met him here or had heard about him because Anakin would talk about him or something. So he kind of knew, his friends would raise these babies and take him to him for that reason. But that was, I don't know. This is actually a Jar Jar costume that they made for reals right there. Because there are some scenes where it's Omnibus in a costume with a digital head, and then other scenes are like a full-on digital Jar Jar.
I want a Jar Jar costume.
You'd be the hit at Comic-Con. Just
No,
make sure you bring
I would be hit at Comic-Con.
Just make sure you bring a raincoat to protect yourself from all the rotten vegetables and crap people would throw at you. See, it's just scenes like this. Like, I don't know. Jar Jar just goofs off. He doesn't ever add anything to a scene. He's just kind of wastes time.
Yeah.
They sure really turned that on as like an homage. Jar Jar lost his head. Not just playing.
Well, and again, it steals all of 3PO's thunder, because 3PO is kind of known as the complainer and maybe the voice of reason, and, you know, the guy who kind of had silly things happen and a bit of slapstick happen, but he has nothing to do in this movie because Jar Jar has taken all that from him, so like maybe we hate him for that? I don't know.
It's working!
I feel bad for this kid. He has so many bad lines in it like this. And later, the little obviously dubbed-in line after the pod race, "Mom, I did it!" It's like so clearly dubbed in after the fact.
I finally did it, Mom!
Oh, he's such a jerk right here where he steals some of his blood.
He's a vampire.
He could have at least told him, "Look, I got to test and make sure your blood is clean," and tell him beforehand.
I'm sorry, sir, but it seems as though you have AIDS.
Oh, God.
Not metachlorians.
That's all it reveals, is that his mom was HIV positive and he's an AIDS baby. Sad.
Poor guy.
No, so, have you ever seen that other thing that shows Qui-Gon and Padme, or Qui-Gon and Shmi, and they're talking to each other? And Shmi says, like, he says to her, "Who was the father?" And Shmi, like, remembers back to some drunken night where Qui-Gon and a bunch of his Jedi friends, like, showed up on Tatooine, and Shmi and him totally hooked up. And, like, he doesn't remember, and she's so heartbroken by it. She's like, "There was no father."
It was an immaculate
But
birth.
it's actually Qui-Gon from back in his more partying Padawan days.
Awesome.
It
was all Yoda.
Feel the force flowing through
I
you.
love
you
green
must.
beans.
Try this one.
Yeah, but I don't know. Liam Neeson does a good job acting in this movie, especially considering the source material. But
Yeah.
oh, and here's that Sith infiltrator that totally looks like a pre-TIE fighter.
Yeah.
That was cool. They had cool ships on this.
You know, when you're told to act bad, there's only so much you can do.
I know. The director wasn't directing. He wasn't keeping it together. He was just having fun with his new toys. And
So this
it's sad. It's such a lost opportunity.
This little speeder or whatever that Darth Maul jumps on looks exactly like Mad Eye Moody's broom from Harry Potter. Because you
What?
kick your feet up like this and you just like chill back.
Oh,
and
yeah,
everything.
actually, from the 7th Harry Potter movie,
Yeah,
I think is
that's
when you
the
finally
one
see
where
that.
you mainly see it.
when he dies.
No, it was Order of the Phoenix 5.
Oh, was he
first see
in
it.
Order? Yeah, okay. I guess he does show up there at the beginning of it. These things are cool because they remind you of the probes that Darth Vader used to interrogate Leia with that needle. And you actually do see him a lot in the background too, but they never really. There's a deleted scene that I wish they'd left in where Qui-Gon sees one of them sneaking up to him and he chops it in half, and that's how they were kind of alerted to the fact that Jedi are here. And the one comes back and tells Darth Maul. So again, there's mistakes on editing. They leave out important parts like that. It's really disheartening. But still, look at the background. All those pit droids that are really fun. They're practically Transformers. There's a Twilight girl hanging out with Sebulba.
Yeah.
Making him look like a pimp.
And then you see her later on the Fifth Element singing away.
That's true. She was a Twilight, huh? Oh, man. Fifth Element's actually a fun movie.
Do we see the Senate in this one? We don't see the Senate until the second one, right?
No, we see it in this one. They're about to go there. They're trying to make it off this planet back to Coruscant so that she can appeal to the Senate.
Okay, and that's the one where we actually see, like, E.T.'s race, right?
You can see him down in the corner.
Yeah.
You see them. You see Wookiees. There's some other. There's a couple other. From Star Trek, the blue guys with the antennas.
Oh no, never mind. I just totally had a brain fart as to where Wookiees were actually from. What is a Wookiee doing on Andor?
That's his answer.
Yeah.
Is that a foot soldier behind him?
It's totally a foot soldier.
Did you see a foot soldier behind Qui-Gon? Totally looks like one from the live-action Ninja Turtles movie. This is kind of crap dice, isn't it? 4 blue sides and 2 red.
It's all loaded. And then freaking Qui-Gon cheating.
I can't blame him for it. See, there's the foot soldier again. Except he's got a Michelangelo headband.
Yeah.
It's too bad that he couldn't, like, can't they just kill Watto and take the mother? Or, like, tie Watto up?
Right?
Take the bombs to the Queen's, like, awesome surgery department and remove the bombs.
Just force choke him. Come on.
I mean, seriously, they're literally asking for Anakin to turn to the dark side. See, they always thought that kid was Owen Lars, but he's not, I guess. The one on the space camels.
Owen is, like, almost a ginger, basically.
Well, I don't know. He just had really gray hair, didn't he, in episode 4?
Isn't there
and moisture farming would probably turn you into an old man real quick.
With all that moisture.
Yeah.
I just can't... that picture... it's forever ruined the word moisture for me.
Will got the Star Wars trading card game that you can get onto the iPhone, the collectible cards that are tops. The Topps cards.
Yeah.
He keeps looking at this really nappy picture of Uncle Owen, and it just says, "Oh, he's a moisture farmer." It just kind of looks disgusting, and somehow adds a really weird innuendo-y context to it.
It really is. Like, the look on his face is just like, moisture farmer.
It's even a red card, right?
Owen Lars,
like a rare one,
right?
No, that's the young Owen Lars right there, where he actually looks almost a little too dreamy.
And see, that's why I'm saying, like, can't be a young Uncle Owen. Like, that kid was obviously not white, not Caucasian.
So here's the pod racing thing, and again, this is another miniature that they had. So I think it looks really cool. I mean, again, this movie has no shortage of fun things to look at. And I guess people had problems with these announcers, but I actually kind of like them.
Yeah.
How the one's like talking some other alien language, and the other one's like, "Yeah, that's absolutely right." He's like this total announcer guy. Your character's coming up soon. Your four-armed guy.
I like that guy.
Yeah,
he always reminded me of Heimlich from A Bug's Life.
Oh yeah, I'm a beautiful butterfly.
I am a beautiful
and you
butterfly.
all look like little ants.
Look at my wings.
It's like they have great introductions to all these characters, even though they're completely inconsequential besides Sebulba. But
he probably can't even.
It was fun watching, seeing all the creatures and stuff like that. Seeing all the different kinds of pod racers.
Yeah.
I saw one time in Wizard Magazine they had how to build your own pod racer. And it's like you take an old 77 Chevy chassis and you take a bunch of 747 jet engines and just hook them together with cables. And there you have a pod racer.
I've never seen him before.
I think this is the extended...
when I was a young warthog.
Yeah, he looks like Pumbaa, that guy. I think this is the kind of extended DVD version where they have a longer intro for the pod.
Yeah.
Again,
cool.
So they release it on DVD and they actually add in a little bit of the deleted scenes to fill it out a little more. And they didn't add in important things like showing Qui-Gon cut the Sith droid in half, and that's why he's running later.
And then that ode to the Three Stooges right there.
Oh, yeah.
With the droids, he ducks and hits the other one.
I like the pit droids. I think it's fine if they do some slapstick. People give it crap.
Absolutely.
Even in the special edition of Episode 4, I didn't mind when all the Mos Eisley robots were kind of goofy with each other. That's fine. I just don't want Jar Jar doing it. And again, Jar Jar... One of the other problems is he does a lot of poop jokes like that, and later when he steps in something.
And if he's already messed up, like working on the pod, why would you trust him to work on it right before the big match?
When he already stuck his face into electricity or whatever.
dropped the thing into the engine, got his hand stuck.
It is kind of, this is a fun subplot where Sebulba sabotages the engine, and then Anakin, it shows how cool he is that he has to fix it mid-race. It's things like that are fun. They make this movie cool. But still, I wish Anakin, it's too bad that he wasn't maybe a little older, or maybe he actually was just a cool natural pilot because of this pod racing, because he's really annoying during the final fight. I mean, he spends half of it on autopilot and can't figure out how to get off it, and then the other half doing things like, let's try spinning. That's a good trick. Like, oh my gosh. He'd learned all the stuff from Peppy on Star Fox.
Right?
Do a barrel roll! It's terrible. And he has this, he's got a cool helmet, though. It's a very Star Warsy helmet, and a little reminiscent of Luke's X-Wing helmet.
A little bit, yeah.
The googles. The goggles are kind of cool.
The Google goggles.
They're just cool goggles. They're googles. Now, is that Jabba the Hutt's son, or is it his wife?
I think that's the wife.
But he still has the same translator guy, or, butler, or whatever that guy is. The Twi'lek with the weird tentacle things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's got some other weird people in the background I never noticed, like the weird
the
girl.
flower people.
Yeah, the flower head lady.
That's what's-her-face from the Clone Wars movie.
Which one?
The 3D one. The one that kidnaps...
Stinky?
Yeah.
Didn't they call him Stinky the Hutt or something stupid?
Know.
I actually didn't mind that movie. I think I actually fell asleep in it, though, when I went to see it in the theater. But let's face it, Clone Wars, that Clone Wars cartoon came into its own for sure, and it's really carried on in Rebels as well now. But if there's one good thing that Clone Wars has done, it actually makes the prequels better.
Yeah.
Because it fills in a lot of the cracks, and it gives us that old Star Wars feel, but in the prequel aesthetic. So, here they're getting ready to... They do amp up the tension pretty good, I think, with this whole pod race thing.
I love the pod racing game that they have at GameWorks.
Oh, yeah. Don't they have one at... I think I saw one at Atomic Arcade, too, didn't I? On 3909 South and Highland Drive, 20th East. Salt Lake City, Utah. 84 something.
8444444444.
No, but yeah, they totally made some of the coolest video games out of this pod race. I don't know why they have to have such a giant iPad to watch the race on. This was a long time ago, back when iPads were huge.
What if that is Greedo, and this is just like the happiest you ever see him, and then he just gets shot?
I know, it's kind of sad.
Warwick Davis was out of his costume.
Yeah, he's got a nice little cameo. Willow off good. We should do Willow one day. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah, I've seen Willow.
Okay, cool. What was one that... We've talked about it on podcasts before. If we have any fans out there that are consistently listening to this, they're right now banging their heads against the keyboard and saying, like, dang it was this you guys were talking about.
It was probably... I mean, there's Big Trouble in Little China, there's...
Yeah, there's that, and I think we talked about Krull one time, and probably Legend with Tom Cruise. Anyway.
I've seen Legend.
Have you noticed Anakin on the back of his pod racer cockpit there? He's got those blue stripes that wrap around everything, and Luke has some of those on his X-Wing fighter in Episode 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was something...
the flag, too. Like, I wonder if what it symbolizes, because the flag had basically the same blue stripes on it that C-3PO was holding up.
Must be a Skywalker sigil or something, like the direwolf of the Starks.
Yeah.
Slaves get sigils.
Well, they must have made one up and snuck it in past Watto's nose or something. Maybe it's actually Watto's sigil, and the Skywalkers sort of commandeered it.
Yeah. It's like, we fly for him, unfortunately.
Don't you think they would have been better off having windshields instead of goggles? Because if they're really going that fast... As an avid motorcycle rider myself... Josh, don't you... Oh, he's got his headphones on doing something. But, like, if you're riding a motorcycle and you're going even, like, 60 or 70 miles an hour with the face shield up, you're going to feel it smacking you in the face like a slap.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how these guys are getting away with going, like, 200 miles an hour or 300 miles an hour with just goggles on. Like, yeah, I guess some of them kind of have windshields, but they're not any more useful than the ones that are on motorcycles. Still, these caves are cool. Did they ever talk about if... I guess this is supposed to be one of the craziest courses in the galaxy. But they ever talk about if Anakin actually races this one? I guess this is probably the only one he could really race if he's always been on this planet and never been anywhere else.
That's why he never made a name for himself as a pod racer so much.
It's fun cameos with the Sand People here and some of those other bounty hunters and stuff in the background. And the Jawas. But, y'all, that's just one more reason for Anakin to be pissed off at the Sand people, because they
leave it
used to
out
take
there.
pop shots at him while he was trying to. I'm just trying to race here, guys. Leave me alone.
I like how the camera looks like it should be like an automatic gun that just fires at people.
Oh yeah, well that's like the camera the guy has on episode 4 when they're on Yavin,
Uh-huh.
and he's just like pew pew, gotcha.
Pee pee.
So I like these
Pit
little.
stop.
This is fun. This sequence
this-
is fun. People give this crap, but I think it's way funny. The one gets sucked into the engine. That's hilarious, and he survives. And he had a fun ride while doing it. Wow! I think that's actually really cool. My brother has. I got the Transformers. He gets all the Star Wars toys, and he had a lot of those pit droids and pretty much all these characters. I remember when he came home, like when they released all the new toys at Toys R Us. He was one of the ones that went there at like midnight and bought them all. It was really cool. So is this the last lap? Where are we? I kind of got lost.
Yeah, it's like, how many laps are there
There's
exactly?
3 laps.
I know there's
The second
3,
one.
but... Oh, there's your character. You have
Yeah.
the 4 arms like that. I thought he was a pod racer, not a vendor.
I think there is one that's a pod
Cigars,
racer, too.
cigarettes.
Come on, just because I have 4 arms doesn't mean I get locked into one profession.
Oh, there he
at a
is, right
time.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of... Okay, so yeah, this is the longer pod race sequence, because this wasn't in the theatrical release either. Some of these gags while they're pod
Yeah.
racing.
It's like, just move your thing up into, like, the middle of him and just, like, zap him like you did Jar Jar.
Yeah. You know, you got to hand it to... one of the things that these movies actually did right was having Ben Burt back doing the sound, because these pod racer sounds you still hear in other movies. You know, a lot of the sound effects that were in this that still sounded so cool and so original have still made it into other shows, other cartoons, other movies.
Uh-huh.
You know, so it's there's a lot to listen to. 'Cause I remember going to see this in a theater here in town that at the time was the only one that had like the 5.1 sound in the theater, and so I'd go there, and it was really cool just to listen to the movie. The Bulbous, I think he's a fun character. The way he cheats and stuff.
Yeah.
Even if all these poor aliens are definitely dying.
It's like, as long as I win. As long as I can have a couple Twi'lek girls.
So yeah, there's this whole bit where he fixes it in this extended DVD version, where he has his little magnetic wand that reattaches the coupling. And the
I'm
fact that
surprised
he's
he
doing
hasn't
it in
thrown up.
I know. I was just about to say, like, you have to have you have to be strong with the Force, not to be puking your guts out right now. He stabilized. How did he stabilize? I guess he flipped a switch there, and it did something. Yeah, but he's got that little wand. See, that's cool. And then he reattaches it.
He's like, go there. He
But-
actually
but
didn't
yes-
even use the wand. It was actually the Force.
Maybe, actually. What if he just kind of channeled it through there? Because, they always use their hands to channel stuff.
Yeah.
And he thinks, I have a magic wand, but really the whole time he was just channeling his power. Oh, I'm always going to think of that now when I watch this. That's actually really cool. That's why you listen to this podcast, folks. Little
We get
tidbits
way
like
meta.
that. Yeah, so I think this is the second lap still, because I think
Since it is
it's
the
only him and
extended.
Sebulba. It's only him and Sebulba on the other one. I'm sure that, you know what, those sand people are actually probably really good shots, but because they get him, right?
Yeah.
But Anakin has the Force, right? And if there's one thing we know about people with the Force, they can dodge bullets. So,
Yes.
so even though it's ricocheting off his thing, he probably still senses it. Yeah, I see here they come for lap number 3. So, it's cool. They finally kick in the music right here, make it a little more intense. But it's a great fun sequence. I remember this is one of the standout ones that critics were talking about as something that they really liked about the movie back when it first came out. It's good, sure is good looking.
Yeah, and the 64 game was a lot of fun.
It was, man.
I played that quite a bit.
That was the racing game that
Sucked all
taught
the
me
time.
not to be looking at the track that I like my car, but to be looking at the track ahead to know where
Yeah.
you're going. Like I had to think that fast and finally learn that trick. Did we already see the white skinned, red mohawked bounty hunter girl? in the
Yeah,
background?
that's sitting up on top of the...
Yeah, she was someone that
Valley.
magazines at the time were making a big deal of, but like that's the only time you ever see her. She shows up in the Clone Wars cartoon along with Cad Bane and some of those characters, but man, the Clone Wars cartoon had some really cool stuff. Go watch that, folks. If you're a Star Wars fan that has a bad taste in their mouth from the prequels, it'll help ease the pain a little bit.
Just skip the Jar Jar Binks 3 CPO episodes and
Yeah.
some Adalas.
Most Padme episodes are a little boring, but still, pretty decent. Because what else can you do with her character? She's already kind of there's the
They just have to
Jawas.
make a spin-off where it's like Sex in the City, but with her,
With
and she just buys a
Padme
bunch of clothing.
as like as like some awesome like senator chick on the prowl in Coruscant.
I like the Clone Wars cartoons because those were always the episodes I caught.
Yeah, that's sad. Like I've heard that same story from other people, but there are other great ones too. Where like Obi-Wan has a choice between murdering this guy and like saving this girl that was an old flame of his from back when he was a Padawan, and like Anakin just comes up behind the guy and murders him for Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan just looks at him shocked, and he's like, "What? He was going to blow up the ship. What do you want me to do?" But it plays a little bit of Darth Vader theme behind it. I mean, there's some great touches in the Clone Wars cartoon. It's really fun.
I feel like they got a much better collaboration when they were doing the animated series. They had a lot more graphics and stuff that they could incorporate with it. The little quips that you can put in there since it's episode by episode.
Yeah, and you can really flesh out some of these things, like the fact that Anakin and Obi-Wan were good friends. I mean, Obi-Wan says to Luke in episode 4, Anakin was a good friend. But yet in these movies, they're so antagonistic with each other. So, you know, it's fun to watch the TV series and see that they really were like super good buds. They were total bros. Things. I think there's two people who made the animated series is like really good. And in the first one that came out before episode 3, where it was all hand drawn, like Powerpuff Girls style, Genndy Tartakovsky, coolest guy ever, and he made those cartoons really cool. He made me excited for Grievous. I think Grievous turned out to be a totally different character in episode 3, but he made him super badass in in the Clone Wars cartoon. Now, when they made the computer animated Clone Wars cartoon, it's all about Dave Filoni. That guy knows his stuff, and he always wears a cool cowboy hat. But yeah, Dave Filoni, thank you for like really making these prequels shine with the Clone Wars TV series, and you know, taking these kind of ingredients and just making a spectacular meal out of them.
Nice.
You know, all the crowd is really fun to look at. The aliens all in the stands and stuff like that are every bit as much fun to look at as the ones in the original cantina.
It's like, what can I see?
Yeah, there's a lot of eye candy in this. You know, there's a lot of cool things. There's a nice touch there with Shmi, like kind of closing her eyes, like, oh, I can't watch this. I'm too freaked out. You know,
you're gonna lose your son no matter what.
She's a really good concerned mother. Well, she doesn't know that yet.
Take that, Sebulba. I like the different sounds between like Anakin's pod and his, because Anakin's is
and his is all menacing. There's that little bit poodoo. We all know what that means. Shit.
Because it says poo and do.
There's green alien Willow, the leprechaun, having fun with the
Fat
kid who's
Greedo.
not Owen Lars. Well, maybe Greedo was a chubby kid. Maybe that's why he's such a jerk when he grows up. And he's sick of being picked on his whole life.
The only person ever liked me was that Anakin kid.
There's a bunch of Queequays. That's like your old character in our Star Wars game.
Uh-huh.
You can see their ugly faces.
My lady Weequay looked a lot cuter.
She was
There's Warwick
fine.
Davis again, talking to Watto.
Yeah, there's got dreads. I think Warwick Davis, officially, I remember reading somewhere, he's the one that Watto loses the bet to that Anakin would win.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he actually had to pay out to Warwick Davis's character, and that's part of why he's kind of bummed too. Is he's not only losing a slave, but he lost a bunch of money to Willow. That's great. That's a nice touch that his face is dirty.
Yeah.
I'm glad they thought that far ahead. He kind of looks like a pirate with a 5 o'clock shadow coming in.
William.
Sort of adorable almost. Now back here, there's another scene with the Sith infiltrator. No, I mean the probe droid running around back here somewhere. Huh. So it's always like right at the edge of different scenes here. It's kind of fun to spot it. It's almost a drinking game.
Where
Watto's,
is it?
It looks like Watto's wearing kind of a onesie. He must shop at like the kids department.
Baby Gap.
Yeah, located on Tatooine.
Ooh, what were those? Those were cool looking little things.
Yeah, see, like I say, there's all kinds of little creatures. And
there it is.
Yeah, there it is, right back there. Take a drink, Will. There's also very penis-y looking buildings back there too, I noticed.
They're very phallic shaped.
Poor Watto. He's probably just upset and grouchy all the time because he lost his tooth.
Romri. I am so Romri.
Oh, careful now. That's not Watto. That's the Nemoidians. I'm sorry, everybody. So yeah, like we finally see Obi-Wan Kenobi. You almost forget that he even exists in this movie because he is gone for so much of the middle part.
And you need that butt chin in your life. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. Start singing already. Please.
I'm sure he was excited to be able to grow a beard to cover it. It was so obscene. Almost gave it a PG-13 rating.
At least they didn't have him come into the third one with a mustache.
Can you tell me the only Star Wars movie that has more than a PG rating so far?
The Empire Strikes Back.
Close. Oh, it probably should, but it's actually Episode 3.
Oh, really?
Probably because of all the
burning flesh and
child killing.
Yeah.
Younglings.
Again,
Yeah.
they didn't need to have him murder younglings. It was bad enough that he just came in and killed a bunch of Jedi. They could have brushed that right under the rug. And, I mean, because it makes him completely unsympathetic, even as Darth Vader later, Kind of
Vader
ruins his
later.
character. Vader later.
Later, Vader.
He's kind of excited to just leave his mom, isn't he?
So I hate
He
to
doesn't
make
care
so
that
many
much.
Harry Potter references to this, but they're about the same amount of films for each of them. So, the guy that plays Not Darth Sidious,
Darth Maul, Count Dooku.
Yeah, Count Dooku.
Christopher Lee.
I wanted him to play Rufus Grimgore in the Harry Potter films. He
you
takes
didn't
over
like-
as the Minister of Magic.
You didn't like Bill Nighy's performance?
I did, but when I pictured him, because he was supposed to be like a lion of a man and like stern and strong,
Right.
I always pictured him with like his beard and being all in control, and he a couple of scars, and he would look like a lion of a man.
Christopher Lee would have been really good for that, huh?
Yeah, I would have loved to see Christopher Lee, because that's exactly the first image that came to my mind when I was reading it.
He
It's
doesn't... That would have been good. I wonder if he only didn't do it because he kind of is retired from acting. Like, I mean, he was doing those Tim Burton movies for a while, but like he can't even stand. Like even when they made him in The Hobbit, they have him like standing for one shot and then he's sitting in the rest of that scene. And all of that scene was actually filmed in England. They didn't even have him in New Zealand because he couldn't travel.
Interesting.
So I bet you the only reason he did that was not only was he reprising that role from Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
but also he's like one of the most fanatical Lord of the Rings nuts there is.
How old is he now? He's got to be in
90 something. But yeah, he was in Lord of the Rings because he says that Lord of the Rings is one of those books that he reads once every year for like ever since it came out. So, and he apparently had Tolkien's blessing to play Gandalf for the longest time. But by the time they got there, he was a little old, and he's totally fine with Ian McKellen playing it.
Yeah.
He was happy enough just to play Sauron.
He is 92
Saruman,
years
Saruman.
old.
Don't get after me, nerds. I meant Saruman.
He was born 2 days after me, but about 66
Many
years
years
before me.
earlier. Oh, here's the most 3PO that 3PO gets in the prequels. When he says, "I'll make sure Mom doesn't sell you or nothing," he's like, "Selling me?"
So
But it's like literally
Woo!
the most 3PO, that he ever gets, the most neurotic that 3PO ever gets in these prequels. Again, a missed opportunity, because 3PO is a fun character, but he gets neutered by Jar Jar and all the other stuff that's going on, too, later in the other films.
Yeah.
He's barely in the background,
And then they go and make Jar Jar a senator of Tatooine.
You mean of...
Or Naboo.
Naboo, yeah.
Why would you do something like that? Why?
Again, that's why so many people have had that theory that Jar Jar is the real Phantom Menace. He actually had it all down, was helping Sidious the whole time. Isn't there that robot chicken or something where it ends with him like going, he's got like evil red eyes and he's like totally Sith?
That's so funny.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's Robot Chicken, but I remember seeing that somewhere.
Yeah, somehow it should have ended maybe, or one of those things. And I don't know, it's nice that they have this scene, I guess, if they're going to take a child from his mother and then make that one of the running themes to why he's the jerk later. I don't know, yeah. We didn't need this relationship. It would have been fine if, instead of making him an immaculate conception,
Yeah.
if they just make him a really strong, good Jedi Knight who wanted to do the right thing but got misled, lost his
Mom,
way.
I love you and all, but you never bought me that Turbo Man.
Yeah. I guess you didn't love me enough. I'm going off with this old mysterious stranger who's really into me for some reason. That's not creepy at all.
I hear of a place called Midgard that has a freaking Iron Man. Can you get him to come be my dad?
That would have been cool. Man, I guess now with Star Wars and Marvel both being owned by Disney, it's only a matter of time before we have that Star Wars Avengers crossover, right?
Oh, what I would love to see is just like, since there's so many ships in the Star Wars universe, you just see Star-Lord's ship just like streak past the screen real quick. Just like the subtlest little thing. Just
I would not mind that one bit. In fact, I almost wholeheartedly expect to see that at some point. That's a great idea. It's too much of a missed opportunity if they don't. Darth Maul, he's scary looking, he's cool looking, he fights really cool. He does absolutely nothing. However, he's another thing that they did really well in the Clone Wars cartoon series.
Here it is.
And there's a great fight between him, Savage Opress, and Darth Sidious. That's like one of the coolest lightsaber fights I ever seen.
I love when he pops the other end. I remember the first time I saw the double-ended lightsaber, I was just like,
yeah, your end pops
I'm like,
as
they
well.
can come out of both ends?
You're like Buzz Lightyear when he sees Jesse do the car thing, close
Yeah.
the door, and his wings pop out.
And then, doesn't Woody, like, close his mouth, like, shut his jaw? Maybe not. Maybe that was
there was
Bo
something
Peep.
to that, but he was always into Bo Peep, so there's a little Jedi jump. There's a scene there too where Darth Maul, I think at least in the book or something, he actually jumps onto the ramp and follows Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan chops the ramp off or something, or like swings at him, and Darth Maul drops. So that's why he comes in and he kind of is falling down, and he disengages his lightsaber. So there's a fun meeting, though, knowing how, the destiny of these two.
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they shake hands. And I do remember watching episode 2, and in the bar when they walk in, Anakin and Obi-Wan says, why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
Oh, yeah.
And everyone in the theater laughs. There's some fun lines.
Yeah.
Don't take it so seriously, everybody. It's fun.
Qui-Gon's
It's
like
okay.
that guy that adopts a cat and then realizes that he hates cats, so he pawns it off on his best friend. Hey, I brought this kid.
and he
Actually,
hates
this
it
kid
so
annoys
much.
the hell out of me.
He
Here,
wants to
Padawan.
get out of it so much that he
Yeah.
lets himself get stabbed. Like, screw this, I'm just going to be a Force ghost. That'll learn him.
That way I can still kind of be relevant, but I don't have to deal with that.
All I
stupid
wanted to do was
Padawan.
pick him up and drop him off at the Jedi Academy. I didn't want him tailing me forever. This sucks. How'd I get myself into this?
I just got done raising one of these jackasses.
Doesn't she kind of look like one of those... did you ever used to get those old popsicles that had the orange and red colors like that?
Yeah.
Tasted really good.
Almost like the Astro Pops or whatever.
Padme Amidala, you look like a popsicle.
Please, open your wormhole.
Oh, yeah. the
Please,
South Park.
Padme.
No, I don't know.
Padme, go
We
into
need you to
hyperspace.
save us all. It totally makes me think that. See, the thing is, it talks about the Death Star is catastrophic, everything here is going horrible, but they never really show it. And even when you get back there, like, you don't see any citizens in distress, there's nobody dying, there's no camps. Like, the least they could have done was make it look a little more militaristic on Naboo and show the dire situation so that we know what the high stakes are. But no, instead we just see a guy who's clearly still being well fed, clearly still well dressed, saying the death toll is catastrophic. You must come, hurry, sign the treaty. You know, we still don't even know what the treaty entails and what the whole. It doesn't make sense.
She has to marry one of those guys.
I wish you would
I'm
paint
not
your face like
doing
Guy
it.
Fawkes.
Oh yeah, he just has a weird evil smile with the eyeball-less eyelids. And stuff.
Yeah. Precursor to V for Vendetta.
Yeah, and she shaves her head in this movie and just turns totally badass to... Nothing phases me now.
Oh, and the necklace that she wears in her funeral.
Yeah, well, I was glad that they tied that in a little bit, but...
Remember that one time that you fell in love with a 12-year-old when you were 19?
Well, actually, I think she's supposed to be 14 and he's 8, which is still just as creepy, but... I mean, she looks at him very motherly, and that's the relationship here.
So he has
So
sex
it's not
with his mom.
it's not super creepy, but I don't know. He doesn't hit on her very well in the second movie either, and it does make it even creepier that he is kind of hitting on a surrogate mother figure.
The werewolf from Twilight didn't hit on the baby either, but we all know what imprinting means. And I feel embarrassed that I know what that is.
When are we gonna do our Twilight podcast?
Oh god.
When I turn into a vampire.
So never.
Either that or else I have my
I
first
could just
menstrual
throw
cycle.
So again, never. Oh
I
wow,
don't know.
I forget
just
how
throw confetti at you in the sun. There you go.
sparkly vampire.
confetti.
Oh, I forgot how Coruscant is actually like really white.
Like
it's
a
actually kind of
metropolis.
colorless. Yeah, a little bit. It's cool looking though. Like again, I like the Blade Runner-iness of it.
I've always wondered how they dictate like where the traffic lines are for like space or like air travel and everything like that.
By Odin's beard, that's General Zod.
General Zod.
Yeah, see, there's both Natalie Portmans. One with white face and the other without. But yeah, I forget how young the Emperor looks right here. How young Senator Palpatine looks.
Yeah, definitely.
He really was. I guess it was kind of fortuitous because they cast him as a young man and put all that makeup on him in Return of the Jedi. And then, he kind of just grew into the right age by the time they filmed this. So it's actually kind of cool.
He's gonna show up as a Force ghost in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, deathbed repentance, baby. He's just hanging out with Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yeah, I got to the light side just in time. It is cool how the guards in the back, those blue guards, are very reminiscent of those Praetorian guards or whatever. They're very reminiscent of the Red Guards from Return of the Jedi. Like pre-Sith evilness. They make a big deal about those Crimson Guards, but they never actually do anything cool in any of these movies.
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly expect that J.J. Abrams is going to do something with that in this upcoming movies. But wow, look at the driver.
Yeah,
Make a big deal out of Boba Fett, even though all he did was get beaten up by a blind man.
Oh, I heard a really cool rumor of like how they could make Boba Fett really cool. I don't know. I won't go into it, but it had to do with the fact that, like, since they are clones and stuff like that, like someone else could show up in Boba Fett armor and kind of be another one of the, another clone son that he had stashed somewhere. So, I don't know, without completely destroying the fact that he died fighting Han Solo. But
that's why Boba Fett's cool. Whenever he dies, the clone machine gets activated and they just pop out another one.
Yeah, what if he's like a Venture Brother that way? And he actually set himself up a clone queue with the Camino in technology. And that's what happens. Like when he goes to sleep at night, it imprints his brainwaves. So if he dies, then there's another Boba Fett ready to roll.
so it's like Live, Die, Repeat.
Almost, yeah, a little bit.
Speaking of which, have you guys seen Live, Die, Repeat?
I own it on DVD and love it.
It is so freaking good.
It's really good. It's really funny. It's really exciting, and even the ending, like,
yeah.
I heard they messed with it for a long time, but I think it's really good and satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, when my wife likes a sci-fi war movie, that's saying something.
And Tom Cruise, everyone gave that movie crap because of Tom Cruise and said, "Oh, I want to watch Tom Cruise die all the time." He does a really good job in it. He's really fun. I forgot
they changed the name of that movie like 3 times.
Yeah, I still think they should have kept it as All You Need Is Kill.
See, I really didn't care for that movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's fair, but if anything, I would have wished that it had more mech combat in it against those licorice aliens, those black licorice aliens.
I gotta say, I went ahead and rewatched Big Hero 6 last night. Yeah, it was last night after the game.
And?
It got a little better.
Okay. I'll take that.
Seen it.
What I'm really concerned about, what I really want to see for a sequel, is the story between the like stoner dude and his dad, that's Stan Lee.
Yeah, huh? Because
like,
they have that little teaser at the ending.
Yeah, that is something that I would have watched. Like their whole freaking movie is based off of how to wear underwear.
I know. Well, he's a really funny character. It wasn't until like the 3rd or 4th time I watched through that, because when it came out on DVD, I think we had to watch it twice with Alicia's family, which I was fine with because I actually like it a lot. But I didn't realize that Fred actually is kind of like a delivery guy that just hangs out at that school.
Yeah.
He doesn't have all the smarts and stuff like that. He just knows all the superhero lore. So he's like this ultimate nerd that they keep around to kind of guide them and help them out with stuff. But yeah, like he doesn't have any of the technology that any of the other characters have. He's just there to hang out and give them nicknames.
Exactly.
So he's
They're
totally
the science part. He of the nerd spectrum.
Yeah.
He's like the comic.
And he's
book
the kind of comic book guy. But they all work together so well, and he's like a super good dude. Like
yeah.
I loved Fred. I like that movie. It's fun. It's not without its little problems here and there, but I cried a little bit at the end the first time I saw it.
When I saw Mitch's son today, I'm like, "Can he do Knuckles?" And he hellos, and I went, "La la 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 la."
Yeah. Oh man, Alicia and I were doing that to each other forever after we saw that movie. There's Samuel Mother Effin Jackson.
I want to know what that actual space wizard in the background behind him is.
I know, the guy with the big beard and stuff. I think Robot Chicken goes into a bunch of those different characters and shows you different story arcs of theirs.
And here's
like
still
the Q-tip head
Yoda.
guy. The Q-tip head guy just wears a mustache to disguise himself on the Death Star. And then he's out there and he's serving lunch and he freaks out when Palpatine and Darth Vader are staring him in the face. And they're like, "Don't we know you?" But every time, here's a little game for you. Every time Samuel L. Jackson talks in this movie, every single time, he starts blinking a lot.
Yeah.
Like blinking worse than Kirsten Stewart.
So young looking here.
Yeah, he totally is, huh? I wouldn't mind if Samuel L. Jackson shows up in The Force Awakens. I think that'd be fun.
Did Mace Windu die, though?
Nobody knows, yeah. If he showed up somehow as a ghost or had a new robot hand or something.
Because he fell out of the window, right?
Yeah, we see him fall out the window. We don't really see what happens next. So.
I mean, we've seen multiple Jedi jump out of a window and use the Force to just, like, jump onto a freighter.
That's true. And, I mean, considering all the acrobatics that Anakin and Obi-Wan were going through in Episode 2 and they were chasing Zam Wesell, like, imagine, what Mace Windu, who's even cooler and more powerful and stuff, even if he was being electrocuted or whatever and lost a hand,
yeah,
you got to think he might have found a way out of it. And if Yoda can survive all the Order 66, then, why can't he? So, I wouldn't mind. I'm serious. You know, if they brought in an old man Mace Windu, that would be awesome.
Right. And he actually has.
It would
hair.
kind of
That
make
would
you
be the
wonder
most
why.
Hilarious thing.
Maybe that's what they were talking about too. Like when Yoda says, "No, there is another." He actually knew that Mace Windu was out there and still alive and might get the job done. But like they were actually thinking that maybe Luke could turn Vader back or something. I don't know. Like
the possibilities are endless.
And then when Obi-Wan talked about the twin sister, maybe he was trying to lead Luke down some other path. But you know, it worked out in the end. You could make up all kinds of little possibilities if you want. I'm just saying I want Samuel L. Jackson in Episode 7 reprising his role.
Oh, most definitely. So cool.
This Senate chamber was cool. I mean, the scene itself is boring, but it's fun to look at, and it's fun to picture this big arena with all these different aliens and try to point out all the, Mustafarians and the Wookiees and even the E.T. race.
Mm-hmm.
You know what makes the E.T. thing really meta, though? Is remember on E.T. when he's walking around and he sees the little kid dressed up like Yoda and he starts kind of going toward him like, like he recognized him? Does that make it weird or what?
That's perfect. Because
if he was an E.T. that would have known Yoda or about Yoda or Yoda's race or something.
Be like, hey, help me get home.
Malastare, not Mustafarians, Malastarians.
There's that bounty hunter you were talking about.
Oh, what's her name? Ara Singh. Yeah, she's in the Clone Wars cartoon when she shows up with Cad Bane and all those guys. She's really cool.
Let's see what it says. A feared bounty hunter known for her chalk-white skin and built-in comlink antenna, Aura Singh was an expert sniper and trained assassin working for anyone who pays. Singh found herself at Mos Espa on Tatooine, where she bore witness to Anakin Skywalker's victory at the Bunta Eve pod race.
Yep.
After the death of Jango Fett, Aura trained Boba Fett as a bounty hunter, teaching him the skills and the ruthlessness.
Yeah. That's right. She's in one of those episodes with little Boba Fett. I
in
forgot.
Pursuing his deadly profession, she was formidable, whether working alone, as in her attempt to assassinate Padme Amidala on Alderaan, or working alongside the best line of notorious Cad Bane.
Huh. Well, again, a missed opportunity that she wasn't more of a thing in this movie, especially in Episode 2. They could have thrown her in there. There's that one Twi'lek, big fat guy.
Yeah.
There's fun characters.
There's ETs.
Yeah, there's the ETs down in the corner there. This guy, he's hanging out with Palpatine all the time, and he's totally aware that he's a Sith Lord by the end of Episode 3. Kind of makes me wonder what his story is.
Let me tell you.
I threw the Senate at him. The whole thing.
I threw the Senate at him. The whole Senate. No fooling. Vote for Papa Palpatine. And then, again, the backgrounds of these all look pretty, because this is all blue screen stuff,
It's
of course,
this guy,
in
right?
the background.
Masameda?
Yeah, what's his deal?
Masameda was the vice chair of the Galactic Senate during Chancellor Valorum's term, a position he continued to hold as Chancellor Palpatine transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire.
So he's basically the Dick Cheney of the...
Amida's
of the
booming voice
Galactic
often
Empire.
called for order when the partisan nature of the Republic's government degenerated its pointless bickering. In an alien gesture of authority, he would often punctuate such calls with a flicker of his long forked finger. It doesn't tell us much, but...
Well, it still doesn't explain why he's like, yeah, I'll still hang out with you as an evil Sith Lord who's destroying everything we've ever worked for as a democracy. Sure.
I was running a Star Wars game and I wanted him there as like a joke.
Oh, yeah?
And we couldn't figure out his name, so we just called him Blue Cabbage.
Blue Cabbage. Captain Blue Cabs.
Oh, so the same guy that plays, who's the Conehead guy here? Ki-Adi-Mundi? Ki-Adi-Mundi, the same guy plays him, plays the head of the Nemoidian Trade Federation, whatever his name is, I kind of forget. But he also played like 2 other characters in this one, but he mostly continued to play the Nemoidian guy in Ki-Adi-Mundi here.
Which one is he? The one with the high forehead and...
Yeah, and the white beard, yeah, who gets killed on the bridge by the
What's
Order
his
66
name?
guys.
Guys, spoilers.
Ki-Adi-Mundi? Look, if you haven't seen Star Wars before, and this is your first time watching it as well listening to this podcast,
Ki-Adi-Mundi.
there's great city shots. It's a very fun sci-fi idea to have a whole planet that's just a giant city.
Caesarian,
It's basically what Cybertron would look like, I guess. Although they had a pretty good Cybertron in Dark of the Moon, but anyway.
So, he's a Jedi Master who serves on the High Council. Monday at first did not believe that the Sith had made somehow a return. Monday
Idiot.
is leading his Galactic Marines into battle on Megiddo when Darth Sidious issues Order 66, which destroyed the Jedi Knights. As a result, Ki-Adi is shot to death by his own clone troopers.
Totally pwned. See, that's another thing I wish they would have done in Episode 3 is, they established that Yoda has a connection to the Wookiees, and he's got an in with them, and then it shows him hanging out with Chewbacca and whoever the other big general is. Now, what would have been cool is if Yoda, he can still sense that the guys are coming up behind him and he chops their heads off, but wouldn't it have been cool if the entire squad of troopers there came after Yoda, and Yoda might not make it, just like all the other Jedi get pounced on and ganked, but it's the Wookiees who are hanging out with Yoda that actually save him and will be like, oh, to heck with this. We're not letting you take down our Jedi, buddy, because Wookiees are totally into Jedi.
Yeah.
I think they're cool, right? So, what if the Wookiees, what if they made a big deal about Chewbacca being directly responsible for Yoda surviving and getting off the planet and making it to Coruscant and Dagobah and everything? Because that gives Chewie a lot cooler history
pilot.
and something more to do, and makes it that much cooler that, he recognizes Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of, when they see each other in the cantina and kind of says to Han Solo, hey, we should help this guy out.
Yeah.
Which has always been a kind of a fan theory that both R2 and Chewie were kind of always secretly, rebel guys, who had their own agendas and sort of manipulated events and recognized each other the whole time and stuff.
That's why Han charged Obi-Wan so much. This guy owed me money.
Yeah.
He recognized me.
Way back when.
This is my favorite.
He was on a
part.
general's pay, too. I don't get it.
His name is Droopy McCool.
Droopy McCool from Sice Noodles Band. I just like Max Rebo. And he's always like, I gotta get to the gig, man. I ain't never missed a gig. A lot of these Jedi that you see in the Council here, they have whole Clone Wars episodes dedicated to them, or they make guest starring appearances in certain episodes. And they're really cool. A lot of them are really different from each other and have really cool personalities and stuff. Again, the Clone Wars cartoon really fleshes a lot of this out and makes you appreciate these prequel movies even more.
Yeah. Another
I forget how weird this puppet Yoda kind of looks. I mean, the digital Yoda looks really good, and I remember watching the behind-the-scenes things where they really painstakingly tried to make digital Yoda look more like puppet Yoda. Because this one, I know they changed the material of puppet that they used, but it was almost too bouncy, the first one would move really slowly and deliberately, which I don't know if it's acting on Frank Oz's part or is just the nature of the materials they were using or something. But this one, I know they used kind of some more gelatin thing to make him more of a lifelike creature. And it always seemed to me that it was almost too bouncy, too lively. I guess Yoda's younger and healthier, but still, I don't know.
Right. This was one of my favorite characters from one of the other ones.
The Techno-Union Army. I always figured he had his own theme music he carries on his chest, and that's what he did. The Techno-Union Army. That's kind of what he was doing. There's a guy sitting to the left of Mace Windu who has a lot of cool Clone Wars episodes, and he kind of breathes, I think, a different stuff, and so he has a big visor and face mask on him. Mm-hmm. He was one that was, I think, a really cool pilot and had a very cool and mysterious voice, like Jedi should.
One day, Obi-Wan,
all right,
I will push this Padawan off on you. Enjoy never having free time again.
I know you don't like strays, but you better get used to it. So, actually, it is kind of a fun character trait of Qui-Gon that he keeps picking up little friends along the way, and Obi-Wan's really annoyed by it. Yeah. Still, it makes Obi-Wan kind of a downer, kind of a buzzkill that he. He's such he wants Qui-Gon to keep the rules and all that crap, and
that was the whitest I've ever seen R2.
Yeah, the cleanest. So, except at the end of Episode 4, I guess, when he's all polished up. But now this is the scene that almost broke Star Wars, I think, for a lot of people, because this is where he tells them about midi-chlorians, and if you remember, they rarely ever come up, if at all, anymore. And I remember on the commentary, George Lucas even talks about trying to bring some kind of sciencey aspect to the Force. Big mistake, considering it was supposed to be much more mysterious, much more spiritual in nature. But, we've all kind of glazed over it. It's like any comic book stuff, like Marvel does all the time, like I've said on other podcasts. Sometimes they try a new thing and they throw it in there, and the fans kind of decide whether it's going to stick around or not, and they can always retcon it later. So
exactly, and that's basically what they've done, because they don't really talk about the midichlorian count after Episode 1.
I think after 20 years, it's kind of not a big deal anymore.
Right.
Every now and then they might mention it in some kind of passing, but it's... I think we've all sort of gotten over it and just kind of brushed it under the rug a little bit. But yeah, I remember myself sitting in the theater and feeling very uncomfortable at this explanation of midichlorians and what it was. I mean, isn't it good enough that they can just gauge the Force by saying, I can feel him and he's very strong with the Force?
Right.
There was an episode of Space Elders that they did a long time ago on X96 where Qui-Gon Jinn had picked up the Space Elders, like the missionaries, the Mormon missionaries in space, and said, I have a feeling they're very strong with the Force. And like, Master Qui-Gon, first you thought that Wookiee was really strong with the Force, and then even that droid was strong with the Force. Quit bringing us these people and telling us they're the chosen one. It's like, I'll have you know that droid was strong with the Force. They were, Space Elders was great.
So was like, is it General Grievous? Yeah, General Grievous. Was he Force sensitive at all since he was able to wield the things and he was some kind of techno-organic at the same time?
Not that I've ever heard. Maybe there's something out there about him that does talk about if he's... Oh, I seen a thing where he's talking to that pilot saying, and this one controls the pitch. And the pilot's like, no, go away. But no, General Grievous, as far as I know, wasn't Force sensitive. He was just had a really cool, super awesome droid body. And, you know, he had a thing about killing Jedi because he was the general of the opposing army. And he loved going toe-to-toe with Jedi and just taking them down. He was trained personally by Count Dooku.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just kind of disappointing to see when he finally does pull out lightsabers and fight with them in Episode 3. He sucked.
Yeah.
He actually wasn't that good, you know?
It's like,
when
congratulations, you can spin your hands and make them look like little...
Yeah, like, clearly that didn't work with
fans.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He was a rave master.
I guess...
He's so red because he just spent so much time in the desert.
Yeah, he's
my
just
fair
sunburned.
complexion.
No, they say that the reason Obi-Wan Kenobi is actually able to take down Grievous and Anakin and stuff like that is because all the Jedi fight with very particular styles, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of his just personal traits is that he's very good at augmenting his style and changing it. He's kind of like Skids in More Than Meets the Eye, where he's a super learner.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, once he fights you for long enough, he can kind of adapt to what he needs to do to fight you. Still doesn't explain why Dooku kicked his ass all the time, but apparently Dooku did the same thing and was just better at it, so whatever. But there's good scenes here between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but again, like I say, it's just, it feels like wasted time that Qui-Gon is in this movie at all, when they could have just had him be Obi-Wan Kenobi the whole time and doing the same stuff, and even like communicating with Yoda, like, hey, Master, I found this kid.
Dang it, stop picking up strays, you must not,
I wonder how often that, like, Jedis shower?
Well, they have the Force, right? So they can just kind of cleanse the dirt and smell away from them.
They just push
like
it through their pores
telekinetically.
and then just, like, wipe it away.
Yeah, they're like Aes Sedai from The Wheel of Time, where it's just kind of a trick of the mind that they do to keep themselves clean and fresh all the time. You know, the Gun Army in this actually is kind of cool. I like to think, you know. It's cool when they come out of the forest with all their creatures. It's cool that they have those giant force-filled things. I like the weird magic balls that they throw at,
Yeah, that
at
are
the
like
bad guys.
EMPs
Yeah,
and
they kind of
whatnot.
short-circuit it, and like a closed-circuit EMP thing or whatever. The guns actually are kind of cool. It's just Jar Jar.
Just Jar Jar.
And this scene's sort of not the greatest as far as, like, when they try to do this reveal where I'm the real queen, because everyone's kind of already figured it out. Nobody cares.
You're like, well, no shit.
And, like,
you
what is
don't
it
look
like? Like the way the guns react to it is really strange. Where they're just like, "Wait, you just tried to like trick us. Like, now why should we trust you?"
Yeah, it's
I
like,
don't know.
thanks for being so deceiving, Decepticon. Because you're a con artist and you're deceiving, so you're a Decepticon.
Basically. Oh man. Yeah, it's kind of cool having Boss Nass back here again. I think this is really the only other time you see him in this whole thing, because he shows up at the funeral in Episode 3, but he certainly doesn't have any lines or do anything. But I thought he was a fun character, and, you know...
I wanted to see him fight. Like, I want to see how quickly Boss Nass can move.
Yeah, maybe he's totally Boss, and that's why they call him Boss, because his moves are sweet and Boss.
Have you noticed, like, all the, like, leaders of these cultures are, like, fat?
Yeah, what's the deal
Jabba
with
the
that?
Hutt, the Twi'lek that was all fat.
Yeah, I guess when you
he's
get...
fat.
Maybe that's part of how they establish authority in the Star Wars universe. All the way
Right.
until, Senator Palpatine or something. But, hey, how come R2's not kneeling with the rest of them? Kill that droid!
Bow before him.
Oh, look, there's little gun kids back there. I never noticed that before. There was, like, a couple of kids with a mom or something. That's kind of fun. Oh, Anakin's just
like,
confused. Like,
Why are we talking to this fat
Yeah.
guy?
He's actually like super racist and empirical. Like, what do you guys mean? These are lower life forms. I hate you all. He's actually a
They're
total
not
brat.
Jedis.
Yeah. You guys are Jedis. You should mind control him. I guess Qui-Gon actually does specifically say we cannot use our powers to help her. So, which is kind of I know, kind of interesting considering his history of trying to mind trick everybody to get his
use
way.
our powers to help her. Darth Maul shows up. We cannot use our powers to help you.
We're sworn never to interfere. Here's Darth Maul's only other line, where he tells him, "Yes, my master."
Yes, my
And here comes that kind of famous, "Wipe them out, all of them." Darth Maul, be mindful.
you.
No
How am I supposed to be mindful when I got like 10 pounds of makeup on? Why do you insist
And
I dress
contacts.
up like this?
contacts that make everything look like strawberry jam. I guess they're making the kid useful. That's good.
See, that's a cool little vehicle
Hideout.
too.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, there's no shortage of cool vehicles in all of these, but that's not the problem with this show. It has cool stuff in it. It's just it's put together poorly.
Oh, Jar Jar, we're so thankful to have you, even though you're still just a big screw up
I
and
know.
nobody likes you, and
Well,
we still want to kill you.
Isn't that kind of the point here, though? Is he's telling them, "Hey, you've negotiated peace between the Gun Guns and the Naboo," because they kind of didn't like each other at first, at the
He's
beginning
like,
of the movie.
Misa didn't do anything. Twas the Jedi's.
I know. It's kind of true. Well, I mean, he did bring them to the Guns, but it doesn't mean anything.
Wrong place at the right time, you know?
Yeah, or vice versa. Either way. Oh well, and I guess this is
with the Jedi's or not.
this is really the military outfit that she's going to be in. Shouldn't she at least have some kind of stormtrooper-like armor or something? She's the queen, right? Shouldn't they be protecting her with like a helmet, maybe?
Maybe a force field?
Glad they're making R2 useful by projecting maps.
Good job, R2.
Everyone always said, you know how he like uses those rocket boosters on his legs in the second movie. Somebody pointed out like, what's the deal with that? Why doesn't he have that later in the other trilogy? It would have solved a lot of problems. And I always thought to myself, I guess they had like a 20-year warranty.
Right?
that's all it explains it. They just kind of
mean,
broke and he never fixed them.
He's old at
Yeah.
that point. I'm sure a lot of his systems aren't working. You don't see him zap anybody either, so that probably isn't working.
Well, he zaps Salacious Crumb a few times, but
Oh, that's right.
man, I mean, maybe he felt bad for all the droids that he murdered during the rest of the Clone Wars, because he's like trying to kill that buzz droid on Anakin's ship and stuff, and he like murders those super battle droids by setting them on fire. So yeah, I remember. Poor guys,
See,
they were just doing their job.
R2-D2 used flamethrower. It was super effective.
I don't think fire would work on droids that effectively.
Well, then
Right?
why do they have Spaceballs the flamethrower? The kids love this one.
So they're fighting stormtroopers in that, or whatever they call them.
Oh, the Spaceball troopers.
Yeah.
They have their like armor on their butts. Did you ever notice that? Like each Sheik has its own armor. I love Spaceballs. All of them. Yeah, nobody can guess who he is when he covers his eyes.
Right? It's just like every superhero
They just
plot.
take him. All right, turn up the brightness on the resolution there. Oh, it's totally Senator Palpatine. Can't do a
I
little
voted
bit
for
of that.
Papa Palpatine.
There's a thing on my brother and I. Okay, so have you guys ever seen Dune
Yes.
with the Kwisatz Haderach and the sandworms and stuff? So you know how in that universe there's a whole thing where mankind got so technologically advanced it created AI, but they had a huge machine wars, Matrix style, where they actually pretty much banished all the machines to Ix, Planet 9, which is actually Ix, and then Ix turned into they call it a planet of living living machines. But then in order so that something like that wouldn't happen again, they developed the Mentats and the Bene Gesserit, and the Mentats were basically living supercomputer people, who were so trained to be so calculated. They're basically kind of Vulcans. So my brother Matt and I have always thought, like, what if in the Star Wars universe something like that had happened a long time ago? And that's why droids are very limited in their specific abilities, why everyone's kind of racist against droids, is because there was a time where the robots got so advanced, the droids were so technologically advanced and stuff like that, pulled a Matrix or Skynet Terminator thing, and there was actually some other war before that. Now, I don't know, you probably know Star Wars lore a little better than I do, and maybe something like that did or didn't happen, but it also makes you wonder, like, that's... I know part of it's the 70s aesthetic from the original, why they still have knobs and switches instead of like a lot more digital stuff. But, I don't know. I like to think that maybe something like that is similar in the Star Wars universe.
I've always wondered, like, when they were just talking to sorry, contacts are bugging me. When they were talking to
what does he look like? Is he big and green? Is he little and green?
And talk backwards, does he?
no, the
gun
Darth
guy?
Sidious.
Oh, okay.
Gosh.
When who is talking to who? Use proper nouns, dang
When
it.
they were talking to Darth Sidious, like, everybody else can, like, communicate with, like, the holograms through, like, watches and stuff like that. Why
Sure.
do they have, like, the thing that walks around?
Because it's so expensive.
It's like, I
It's
will not
something
be...
rich Trade Federation people have.
I must be my actual size in order to convey my importance.
No, I don't get what the deal is with, hey, Anakin, go hide in that cockpit. Because that's safe. You know, can he hide behind a crate or something like that? Or, you know, maybe they left him behind in the forest, for crying out loud. Stay with the gun mother and the other children. That would probably be your proper place, kid.
And all these starfighter guys have, like, Quidditch robes on.
How irresponsible is it that they're bringing a kid into battle? Like, who are these people? Piccolo and Goku and them always dragging Gohan and the other kids into battle to toughen them up?
Qui-Gon is feeling bad about picking them up now. It's all like, maybe this will solve my problem.
If I put him in the cockpit and launch him into battle on autopilot.
I get it. So Qui-Gon is Goku, and that way Obi-Wan is his surrogate father because he's always dying.
I love the daddy issues Gohan has in Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
In Obi-Wan's or Piccolo.
I think this is another reason why everyone kind of has a bad taste in their mouth from this movie is after Return of the Jedi, which still holds up as the coolest space battle ever, except for the one at the end of Serenity is pretty good. But I still think Return of the Jedi is just, you know, the best example, the greatest example of cinematic, you know, spaceship dogfighting and stuff like that to this day, you know, even like 30-something years later. Nice impression. But like, when you see this space battle, it's so, there's nothing going on. It's not nearly as cool. The stakes aren't nearly as high. It's hard to get into it. And especially when they're dividing it up between this battle, which is mediocre at best, really. I mean, the droids are cool and they unfold and come.
Oh, I thought they were
come
setting
across
up for
all
a royal
threatening.
wedding or something.
I know, with all the chairs coming out.
Those are cool. Cap needs one of those.
Yeah, the force fields, the little balls. I mean, that it's cool in its own thing. The spaceship battle would have been cool in its own thing, but it's just too much together. It's too much jumping around. That's like, you know, the ending of Episode 4 had like one battle going on. Empire Strikes Back has two. Return of the Jedi does have three fronts, but they're all very different contextually, and they all are paced very well, and you cut between them all, and they all have something to do with each other a lot better, I think. But this one has four different things going on, and two of those four things are incredibly boring.
Yeah.
So between, you know, Padme's adventure trying to get to the throne room and having this exciting music with a boring thing going on, this battle could have been cool, you know, but it's actually probably cooler than the spaceship battle, honestly, with the guns versus the droids.
Yeah.
At least it's more interesting to look at. The other one with the spaceships is so generic, and Anakin, like, gets so lucky. I don't know.
I love the sound that these balls make when they bounce. Blub, blub, blub.
Yeah, again, Ben Burtt with the sound design for the win. And Jar Jar is kind of funny. I don't actually mind him too much in here. But again, he just would have been cooler if he thought he was such a great warrior, if he thought more about himself than he really was. How can Anakin even be in this cockpit and fly when he can't even see over the top?
Right? It's kind of like when you're in an airplane, like how it sits like this, so you can't actually see it until you start going, and the backlight stuff and evens out, and then you can kind of see.
That's true, huh? Maybe they kind of do
but
that.
at the same time, those look like they're
pretty
level.
flat and level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they don't
how
have
would
any
be
landing
flying.
gears, so they just float there. I don't know. Did they have landing gears when they land on the pad at the beginning of Episode 2?
I think so.
And how hard would that be to be Darth Maul and take your hood off when you have those horns?
I know. I mean, even Master Shredder had somebody
had to come and help him.
Yeah.
And even Tetsu was having a little bit of trouble with that cape. But okay, so this Jedi thing is cool. Although I did see a really funny fake instructional video for how to fight with lightsabers. It points out in slow motion all the times that they're obviously telegraphing to each other their moves when you can tell that it's totally choreographed. It's really cool to look at.
minor things that they may say during the battle, like, huh, means go high.
Sure.
Eek.
Like, yeah, they definitely give away what their moves are. It still looks cool, though. And it's fun to see, you know, two fully trained Jedi Knights taking on a fully trained Sith Lord.
with a double-edged lightsaber.
Yeah, double-bladed lightsabers. Like,
How
super
can that
cool.
happen? How can they have a hilt?
But at the
on
same
us?
time, there's all kinds of times when they could have, like, swept out each other's legs, chopped off some more limbs. I remember we kind of noticed that when we watched this. I think my brother and I and my friend Sam and I, we all kind of decided, like, there must be some kind of etiquette that they've all kind of agreed to follow, some kind of honor system, some kind of Bushido or whatever,
Right.
you know, that kind of
Give them the
dictates
evil
what you
sit.
can and can't do in a fight like this. Some kind of, you know, classical form or something. But anyway, whatever it is, it looks really pretty with all the colors flying around.
Right.
Of course, Red Letter Media, Mr. Plinkett said it best when he said that, you know, some of the times in these prequels, lightsaber battles are treated as shiny keys to just distract us from the problems of the movie.
Yeah.
But still, it's like in the last episode of Rebels when you see Kanan taking on the Sith Inquisitor, and they lightsaber fight into a room like this. You know it's on in a lightsaber fight when they end up in a huge empty chamber with no railings on the bottomless pits all around them.
Right.
All I want is some railings. You know what they said?
They're afraid of us leaning all day. Forget the insurance. Forget the pay. I just want a railing.
Come to the dark side. We have health insurance if you live.
Yeah, I know. We could install railings on the Death Star, but it would cost us an extra $50 million. Forget it.
You had to be with the dark side for at least 6 months to get health insurance.
Now, what's the difference between all these light blasters and heavy blasters? Because if you see the tiny little pea shooter that Padme is using, unless it's like a noisy cricket or something from Men in Black, I can't imagine that it's even taking down battle droids, you know, less anything else.
Right?
But see, I like their little ostrich things that they're fighting with, and it's I mean, you know, they're practically the Rohirrim, really, coming in to save the day on the Battle of the Palanor Fields. But and I kind of like this bit with Jar Jar, and he kicks it, it gets stuck on his foot, and somehow he's kind of luckily hitting everybody.
There's the costume again.
Here's the
'Cause
thing.
You can, like, see the feet.
Well, yeah, exactly. Somebody pointed out one time before episode 2 and 3 came out, they're like, okay, let's watch Jar Jar. Maybe he still has a chance to prove himself as the hero. Because if you watch The Seven Samurai, Toshihiro Mifune's character in that is kind of the goof-off, but he's actually one, you know, the central character and you know, actually does a lot to help them save the day in the end. So people were kind of betting that maybe Jar Jar would be like Toshihiro Mifune's character, but he wasn't. They practically wrote him out, especially by episode 3 when he barely makes a background cameo.
It's like, you just have that little cameo.
Here's the other thing too, like R2 up, you know, through most of this battle was doing the piloting, so
Yeah.
I guess he's probably a better pilot than Anakin at this point. Like, of
Teaches
cour's
Anakin.
Anakin's a little kid. I gotta be
That's
fair.
pretty good. R2's turned off the controls completely.
It's like, you're too young to fly this ship.
All this space battle actually looks almost as bad as the one at the beginning of Lost in Space with Matt LeBlanc.
Man, I haven't seen that one in a long time. I used to love that movie.
It's actually kind of fun. Again, the trick to watching Lost in Space with Matt LeBlanc is pretend that he's Joey in a movie.
Right.
All right, and it's actually Joey making $1 million movie. And if you watch it, that it's actually Joey from Friends and not Matt LeBlanc. It's a lot of fun to watch.
In that. Like, I totally forgot he was in that. The only other movie I can remember him from was like Charlie's Angels, where he played Lucy Liu's like boyfriend.
Oh, I
husband,
forgot
actor.
about that. Oh my gosh, yeah. I
Like-
should watch Charlie's Angels again. That one's some really dumb fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of cool that they have guns that also have grappling hooks on them. How useful is that? Chris, you know how hard it... Yeah, exactly. Do you know how hard it would be to hold on to your gun handle while it's lifting you up like that? No.
You just pull the trigger again and it shoots the freaking line and you just fall to your death.
Whoops. Yeah, because after all, they aren't Batman, for crying out loud.
So that'd be cool in a fight. You shoot that at somebody.
Done. Oi!
Shouldn't he kind of be, like, dead? Yeah.
over here.
Scorpion on Mortal Kombat. Get over here. Or like Shia LaBeouf shooting the grappling hook into Starscream's eye.
Oh man!
Still hate
Speaking
that he
of
took him
Shia
out.
LaBeouf, he is totally like, I hate Shia LaBeouf,
Me too.
Same.
but he has redeemed himself with one of his most recent movies, Fury. Holy
Yeah,
crap!
I don't know if he redeems himself in that movie, but
That movie was so good though. I
the
was
movie
like,
is really good, and he's not bad in it. But
I
I,
like
wouldn't
how they
necessarily say it redeems him.
I like how they used like the tracers for the
Yeah, well,
for the movie, so you could like see the shell from the
Well, they-
tanks like veering off.
they actually had those back then. I mean, it
So
it didn't
cool.
look quite like that, but they actually tracers have been around for a long time, and yeah, it looked like that. Like my friends in the military tell me not too far off. But yeah, the tank battles in that were it really is a cool movie. Go see Fury. I wouldn't mind us watching that, doing a thing on it. Yeah. I do like that Qui-Gon like sits there and meditates and calms himself with the Force, but Darth Maul paces like a tiger waiting for its prey,
because he's more of power.
Yeah, he's a lot more like amped up and harnessing dark side and strength and power versus being one with the Force, being all natural and meditated and calm and at peace and not aggressive. It's cool. And I don't know. Again, I hate to say it. I actually kind of like this part with Jar Jar. He's hiding under the thing, and the thing starts moving, and he's just trying to get away. But like his clumsiness actually lets all the balls come out.
Oh, so he's Harry Potter.
Kind of. No, it's just his attitude. If he thought he was a cool guy, but he actually kept screwing up, but somehow he just had the luck of it, like killing everything,
and then
it would actually be kind of cool. Yeah.
If he just plays it off like,
of course, I meant to do that. Exactly. It's like Ryoga on Ranma 1/2, how he has no sense of direction, but he never admits it. Uh-huh. So it makes him a sympathetic character because he, I could get the idea that he knows that he sucks with directions, but he's never going to admit it, and he's always going to think that he's awesome,
Right.
But this makes him fun. If he just came out and said, "Oh, I'm a screw up and I'm no good at anything," we would be like, "Well, suck it up then."
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, like, how they might be having the Star Wars themed ride and everything.
Oh,
Disney and everything.
Sure.
And they've got the Harry Potter at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And they've got the Attack of Titan over in South Korea.
Yeah.
It's like, where the crap is our Dragon Ball Z, theme park?
But how would they do that? Like, they just have to strap you to harnesses and, like, fly you around.
You
could
have,
roller
like,
coaster
capsule
that they
corp.
strapped you in a harness. And you just...
You could have, like, a capsule corp area.
It actually would be kind of cool to have a bunch of the different vehicles and stuff they have in Dragon Ball.
Kami's place.
Yeah, the palace.
Yeah,
the hyperbolic time chamber.
And that's just the restaurant.
The hyperbolic lion chamber. Now you're just doing it on purpose.
Team 4-Star. Go watch some Team 4-Star.
Yeah, look them up on YouTube after you're done listening to this. You won't be disappointed.
You're already on YouTube if you're listening to this, so just type it in.
It is really cool in Star Wars-y to have this hangar, like just the way it looks. I mean, it's kind of a dumb plot that he just sort of crashes in here and fortunately is staring right at their power generator. But, I mean, besides that, just the fact that the hangar looks cool, the set looks really cool, all the different robots and the like little spaceship droids, the flying droids that come down with like 4 legs like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's cool looking stuff. There's a lot in the background. It's put together lame.
They're the ones that are like the spiders, but they also fly. Like they fold their legs inward and fly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then they
so
turn into
cool.
ships. So this fight is really cool, especially the one-on-one stuff here between Qui-Gon and Maul, and then Obi-Wan and Maul. But why couldn't Obi-Wan like chop through the side of that thing that emits the power generator and break it and then
Even
run
more
through?
importantly, what the crap are those there for? Obviously, they're not protecting anybody from anything. Otherwise, these guys would be exposed to something.
Yeah, and I always figured, maybe they do. Maybe they are radiation intensive, and most people would have to have suits, but Jedi have the Force, so they can kind of push it away from them somehow. But like, there's also the thought though that they're transferring energy of some kind. They're passing it back and forth as some kind of conductor, but it clearly has to turn off every now and then for a cooling reason, I figure. But still, again, why doesn't Obi-Wan just cut through it? Maybe he knows that if he does, the whole place will explode or something, but they never talk about it.
Why didn't Qui-Gon ever just, walk backwards? I have a friend behind me.
That's a good point. Because Maul would have come after him.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing
if he just retreated instead.
When he was meditating with the Force and everything like that, what if he wasn't meditating? What if he knew he was going to die, and that's when he becomes like the Force Ghost that kind of can help out Obi-Wan?
Well, I guess originally that was supposed to be part of the thing, but Liam Neeson had such a bad time making this movie, he didn't want to do Obi-Wan anymore, or Qui-Gon anymore. But he finally did it, I guess, because he needs the money now, and that's why he keeps making Taken movies.
Right.
Because of alimony, from what I understand.
Technically, for that reason, what I heard is his wife died, and he just buried himself in movies.
Oh,
too.
Wow. That makes me feel really bad for making fun of him now.
All the Taken movies are just about his life. They took my wife.
It's really sad, actually, now that you think about it.
Honey,
well,
I swear I didn't kill your mother.
How would this have been for a better ending for this movie if you had to? Maybe Qui-Gon doesn't necessarily have to die. Maybe he just, maybe he does train things from. Maybe he gives up the Jedi Order because of some crap that happens, or because they won't train Anakin. He's just, I'm just going to go off and live peacefully with Anakin's mom. Like, I don't know, something.
Right.
But the way that they beat Darth Maul, what if he did run backwards to Obi-Wan, right? And they're sitting there and they're fighting, and they can't actually take Maul down lightsaber to lightsaber. But what they're able to do is force push him or trick him into being in the center of those beams as they reactivate, and that's what cuts him in half. Like, how much cooler would that have been?
It would have been like 13 Ghosts. Or no, it was The Cell.
Oh, or the horse thing?
Yeah.
I try to pretend that doesn't... That disturbed me so much!
Because it's all
and then
still
you see
beam.
you see all the pieces... Oh, I can't... No, don't even get me talking about it. I can't take
found
that.
Mike's weak point when it comes
Oh my
to...
gosh, that was too much. And the sound it makes, just... Okay, let's pretend that never happened.
That was such a weird movie.
This is pretty crappily telegraphed when... I think it's funny that Darth Maul is just, like, waiting for him to fall. But still, the fact that he, like, flips over Maul and Maul just kind of lets him. Like, what, is he so
He been up
amazed?
there. You cannot win, Obi-Wan.
Right?
I have the high ground.
I have the high ground. He just jumps up and cuts off his legs.
I've seen, like, those memes or something where it shows that, but then it shows back to when, Darth Maul had the high ground and he still got died.
It's
Why
a
doesn't he do, like, a
light side
backflip?
Force using power. They have Force lightning.
Yeah.
Jedis have the high ground.
Yes. Must be something like that, but yeah, it was always pretty disappointing. Like, again, that would have been cooler. What if okay, so they still let Qui-Gon die, but what if Obi-Wan had been able to lead Maul into there, and that's how, like, maybe he loses his lightsaber even?
Yeah.
Like, really raise the stakes. And then as Maul comes at him, you can have Obi-Wan maybe hit the switch or something like that activates that and cuts Maul in half.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other cooler ways they could have done that.
He just, like, takes both of the
When he
lightsabers
kills
and just, like,
Qui-Gon,
slams
that's
them
when he
together.
force pushes him right into it, right as it happens.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been cool if he force pulled him into it?
Yeah.
They always push. Why doesn't he pull him into it and actually bring him close and do that? Like, grab his lightsaber wrist so he can't use it, and then it all just gets chopped off, and Darth Maul dies.
I'd like to see kind of how they
How
did
cool
in
would
the
that have
Force in the Force Unleashed. How you're able to, like, throw the lightsaber and then have it come back to you.
Oh, isn't that fun?
He just, like, grabs his from the bottom of the shaft and he's got Qui-Gon's and he just, like, is sitting there, like, throwing it, and he throws it at Darth Maul. Darth Maul, like, dodges it.
Yeah.
And then it just comes back and slices him in half.
See, that would have been really cool. Kind of like Frieza.
Yeah.
Should have jumped up and shot him.
Well,
Like, uncivilized weapon.
it's pretty cool on Rebels. I know the Sith Inquisitor, like, he throws his lightsaber around like that all the time. I've seen Darth Vader do it in, I think, video games and stuff. But,
Yeah.
it's cool that he has to use his master's sword to do it. But also, there's something about this that takes away the personal individuality of a lightsaber. Because they're always swapping them in and out all the time in these prequel movies. It would have been cooler if you kind of make your one, and that's your weapon, and you have to make another one, and it's really hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, it's pretty
Well,
crap.
Such a cop-out.
Even in the other Star Wars movies, I mean, Luke used his father's, so... I mean,
Yeah.
Well, but it's still kind of passed down. There's some
but
kind
it's
of
passed down
inheritance
from
to it.
master to apprentice.
Was he ever
or something.
taught, like,
I
how to
guess.
create his own? Because you have to, like...
Oh, yeah, there's a deleted scene in Return of the Jedi after they like right before he goes to Jabba's palace, where it actually shows him making his lightsaber in a cave where there's a sandstorm blowing around, and he, like, looks at some hologram thing where somebody's sending him a message, and he, like, finishes building that green lightsaber, and then he, like, gives it to R2 and hides it in him, and then sends them on their way. It's something like that.
Huh.
There's a really cool documentary on YouTube that shows a lot of deleted stuff and production stuff from the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm sure some Google searches will turn it up. I wish I could remember what it's called, but
'Cause, I mean,
it's
if he's
totally
the last-
worth spending 6 hours of your life watching.
Giant Zinger. Looks like a Twinkie.
It does! It looks like a
I've
big red
always
Twinkie
thought
with
of that.
3 boosters. Oh, my friend, when we'd watch this part, and Panaka looks at the Trade Federation and says, "Looks like your Trade Federation's at an end." Like, my friend and I, Sam, go like, "Man, score one for Panaka." Ouch.
This is like the Tea Party.
Yeah, damn, girl. Yeah, right here where he says that.
Don't worry, you'll be out of jail in 3 weeks.
Yeah. We'll see you in like a movie.
Well, you're rich, so of course you won't stay behind bars for long. There's those Praetorian guards again. They look cool with the Romany feather things on
Yeah.
there.
It's like, did you guys just come from Asgard?
You know who doesn't look cool? Is Palpatine's outfit right there.
I think it's just his hair.
Looks like
That
the
doesn't
wizard
help.
From Oz.
He looks
does
like
look like a... Nobody
I
sees the wizard. Not nobody, not no how.
he looks like one of the Weasleys.
It's the
almost,
horse of a
but
different
joins
color.
Slytherin.
Yeah. It's really silly.
I'll have you one of these days, Padme. Don't you worry.
It's the last thing I do.
I'm gonna take your life to reincarnate later.
This is a cool scene between Yoda and Obi-Wan, but it's nice to see Yoda walking. It kind of makes him feel a little more real. But I wish there was more Yoda and Obi-Wan scenes. Like, I actually like the one in Episode 2 where they try to figure out where Kamino is. And I like seeing Yoda talking to all the young Jedi like that. Again, they didn't have to, like, show Anakin about ready to murder them on screen, but it was a nice scene to have Yoda in the second one training kid Jedis, you know? And it actually brings up a cool thing, because, like, Rebels, Kanan, he was just a little kid Jedi when the whole thing happened. And he's, like, barely trained how to do everything, but he's doing his best. You know, so why couldn't you just have the younglings survive for the most part? Maybe that's something that Vader kind of actually thought about. He's like, you know what, I can't murder children. But then they all kind of grow up and are coming after the Empire. He's like, crap, maybe I shouldn't have let them live. But they're adults now, so it's okay for me to go after them. You know, like, do that. Don't murder children, George Lucas.
Well, you should have had him take them and put them into those red outfits, whatever those guys were.
The Star Trek ones?
No. The one guards. I've always heard that they were supposed to be Force sensitive.
Crimson Guards? Yeah, why not take them and train them in the dark side to a degree? And yeah, there's so much more you could have done. I don't know.
Like, now the children are on my side. The next generation are mine.
Yeah, actually, that would have been really cool. Man, I've never even thought about that. That's a great idea, actually. It's cool that, you know, whenever the Jedi are trying to be reverent, they put on their hoods and stuff. It's very old school Jewish kind of, you know, thing. Hebrew kind of thing.
But instead, he had to go there and say, close your eyes, I have a present for you. All right, Anakin. Just imagine you're in a field of flowers.
Thank
Just
you, Robot
imagine you
Chicken.
running backwards through a cornfield.
Honey, I brought you a bouquet of flowers. That's great. I remember my mom and dad, when they saw this movie, they didn't get when they talk about who did we kill, the master or the apprentice, and then it shows Palpatine. They had no idea that Palpatine was the Emperor, and they were Star Wars fans. We were like, how do you know that was the Emperor? I'm like, Mom, really?
Look at him.
Come on. They even have the same voice. And it focused right in on him when they talked about who did we kill, the Master or the Apprentice.
Not to mention, you read the credits, who plays the Emperor.
Yeah, you know.
He's there, and then, hey, look, the character's there, too.
I guess it is fitting that this movie ends with a parade, like most Star Wars movies do. Some kind of party.
Some sort of
Yeah. Well, except for Empire Strikes Back, but they just got their butts handed to them.
This is.
It's one of the Infinity Gems.
Oh,
Either that or it's a Palantir before Sauron took them over and made them bad. It's a Palantir so that the Queen of Naboo can talk to Boss Nass all the time.
They just got it from
Before it gets
Cybertron.
corrupted.
It's just a spark.
Yeah, it's an all spark, yeah. It's a 0.1%er. Well, it would be green if it was.
Right.
Who's that guy that looks like Yoda, but with his eyes cut out?
I can tell you that as well. I like this trading card game because now I have references.
It actually does make it fun. That's where I learned about the X-Men for the most part, was from all their old trading cards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I'd read about them, and I'd read about Celestials and how cool they were, and
I wish
everybody.
you would bring those back because that would be really informative. I
For
wanted
sure.
to get the Marvel Encyclopedia that everybody's talking about.
Is that an app online?
No, it's a book, and it's that big.
Oh, I like Anakin. I do like how Anakin's in a little Jedi outfit with the Jedi head buzz right now. That's
Yeah.
actually kind of cool looking.
I remember that was
cute
the
little
most
kid.
popular freaking costume when this came out.
Oh yeah, for
All
sure.
the kids had those costumes.
Well, I remember going to at least episodes 2 and 3 and seeing all the kids out there with their lightsabers, and people showed up in Jedi robes. And
Yeah.
It
So
was
that guy that
kinda
was
fun.
next to Yoda
yeah,
is named after an orange. His name is Even Peel.
that's kind of cool.
Let's read his history here. A gruff and battle-hardened Jedi, Even Peel was bigger than life though he was small in stature. Highly skilled with a lightsaber and a great warrior, Peel was always willing to charge into battle. The Atlantic Jedi served as a senior member of the Jedi Council during the invasion of Naboo in the Clone Wars.
And we never saw him again.
Yeah, he was way battle-hardened.
yeah,
He's got
sir.
his, top knot. He's like Dobby's freaking cousin.
He does. He looks like a badass Dobby. No,
He's
but
a good Jedi!
certainly Even Peel must have been the true hero of the Star Wars saga. Doing everything from behind the scenes, guiding Obi-Wan and Yoda into what they should guide Luke to do.
Yeah.
So, but he was probably like Prune Face, where he's way cooler than we all knew. But anyway, yeah, that's episode 1, and that's some of our problems with it. But also, it has its good points too. So
Hopefully we
whatever you think
touched
about
on
it, we're stuck about it. We're stuck with it forever. It's official canon, and we can go back and retcon whatever we want to make it good. But it'll always probably be, loathed forever.
Yeah. And, I hope we touched on some of the brighter points to this movie. Since we have a diverse age range here, each person gets to, tell from their point of view, what they experienced when this did come out. So.
I don't think I've ever told you, Will, but back when we first got to be friends and they re-released this in 3D in theaters, and you're like, hey, do you want to go see that? And all I did was send you a link to Mr. Plinkett's, whole, what do you call it? His whole documentary about why this movie is so bad and how you can't stand to watch it and all the problems with it and stuff like that. But I always felt bad because I always felt like I really offended you when I did that. So I apologize. But I think I was even more cynical even just a few years ago about this movie. But I think part of what's got me kind of liking it is the fact that Clone Wars has come and gone and kind of made this movie better, and also that Episode 7 is coming out and it's really got me excited for it. And I understand that they're going to carry along some themes and things like that. And, this movie's not that great, but it kind of stands the test of time, and I think the fact that it has all those other movies around it makes it better than it is on its own. So, I appreciate the good things about it. I try to forget about the bad parts about it, and, if anything, it's just a lesson to be learned in Hollywood about what happens if, everyone around the writer-director, doesn't throw in their 2 cents and just does whatever he wants. And
if they put Jar Jar in the new one, though, I'm done.
Again, like I said, I think Jar Jar was probably on Alderaan when it blew up. So hanging out with Bail Organa, let's just pretend that.
I like how we've been playing this Star Wars RPG and how Sean showed us the planets and everything, and it showed Alderaan, and it was just
for Alderaan, there's just little asteroids in a blank space. That was great. I remember seeing a T-shirt my friend had back in '98, and it was for the Max Rebo band. And it showed their list of venues that they were going to hit, and it had Alderaan, but it was crossed out and said canceled. It was really funny. But yeah, go please. If you like Star Wars stuff, check out the new comics, Dr. Volt's Comic Connection. It's on 2043 East, 3300 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. Ask for Dave or Harley or Maya or Jeremiah or any of those guys there. They'll all be happy to help you and are very informative. And if you grab yourself a hold, they'll even give you, 20% off or 10%? 10% off any purchase over $20. And it's definitely the coolest comic book store we've got around. Even check out their website.
And if you'd like a little more insight into the Star Wars culture or want to talk about it a little more in depth with somebody, go to First Compassionate Eatery at 145 East, 1300 South, Suite 201 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Lee should be there. He's a big, tall guy, little bald.
Lee George K.
He's probably one of the leading people on Star Wars that I know, at least.
For sure.
The most knowledgeable people.
When I first met him, he's always been an apologist for the Star Wars prequels, so it'd be good to go in and talk to him and get his opinion on some of the things that he likes about these prequels, because honestly, he makes a lot of strong points as to why they're good and why they should. A lot of people try to dismiss the prequels and just keep the original trilogy as the only canon, but like I say, he makes a good argument about why, how it all fits together and why we should actually consider the sequels as, the good movies in their own right for different reasons.
And while you're there, go ahead and feel free to pick up some delicious vegan treats. They have a full bakery there with delicious vegan Twinkies, all-day cookies, which are so sweet and so delicious. You'll just want to eat one after another. They've got a full coffee bar, and they're just a great place to go visit.
The baristas.
Check your mental health. As I say in every podcast, if you have a friend that's suffering from depression or suicidal tendencies, not the band, please do help them. Speak up about it, because keeping things in the quiet is when we lose the people we love most.
And please, if any of you are listening, to this and have your own thoughts like that, just help yourself, because remember, if you haven't got your mental health, you haven't got anything. Also, check out, please, MatthewArt.com, where my brother posts all his fun, awesome, goofy drawings and things like that. He's a professionally trained artist working for video game companies and Disney and children's books for HarperCollins, and he has some amazing stuff, and especially if you like Star Wars stuff or any of these other things for movies that we do podcasts for, you'll find some amazing fan art that he's done for all these things. All of his favorite things are all of yours and ours favorite things too, and you won't be disappointed if you go to MatthewArt.com.
Also, look for me and Mike. We've been doing some special guest spots on Geek Hangout Utah's
Facebook page or YouTube channel?
Yeah,
what are they?
Facebook page is what they have.
Wherever
now.
they have things recorded that they play. Yeah.
We're doing the Marvel movie marathon, 2 episodes a weekend. 2 movies, 5 weeks leading up to the release of
Avengers 2, The Age of Ultron. I don't think there actually is a 2 in the title, but you know what I'm talking about.
Come on, they don't need to put a 2 anymore. As long as it's got like the title and then something underneath it, it usually has a sequel. The first Avengers was just the Avengers, but
I think the odd movie curse on Star Trek actually kind of made it so no sequels ever come out with a number attached to it,
right?
To break the odd number curse. But anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us for Star Wars Episode 1, and hopefully we've given you some cool ideas and maybe given you a new way to look at this movie. And check out all of our other podcasts at our YouTube channel for Will and Mike Explain the Movieverse, and we hope to see you again. Remember to, may the Force be with you, always choose the light side, and
may the odds be ever in your favor.
Except that the odds can never actually be in your favor, because the odds can only either be 50%, so it's still 2-1, but still, the sentiment is nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, thanks a lot. May the Schwartz be with you, and
May
y'all
the
take care.
Schwartz be with you.
Adios.